Ugh. In order of importance. First this, then this, then this. That one's just funny. I'll cover that one Wednesday. And then this dog shit. Well, actually, no. Let's do it today.
Player Obscure Exp.
This goes here. That goes there. That goes there. And then Naru's tweets go there as oppressor before the fourth, fifth. I do not necessarily care about Shannon Sharp. That thing is not something I think is important. That's just a fucking Reddit Twitter roasty being a Twitter roasty. I'm getting rid of anything that's older than 30 days. Hello, Master Wolf. Hello, Saf. I was actually surprised that you weren't the first person up yesterday. We all had things to do, I guess. I'm gonna look into this drama. It's gonna be on the side. That one also use chat content. Ooh. Max is dead. That shit is not important. I do not care for MMP's drama. We covered this. This has been covered. ACC shit. And then that is right now. And Ferguson's response is already done. Alright. Now for one that somebody in the server posted. Post-punk Catholic music, huh? How about this? Nope. How about this track from Aqua? It's my vibe, but not right now. Up for what? What do you mean up for what? You were there, Nyappin. You were the first one in the lobby, then you left. Then you came back and you were there at the end when I ended. I'm just saying I was surprised that you weren't the first one up. Alright. So here's the deal. I am going to finish Ratchet and Clank 2 today. Probably not on this broadcast, but there are pieces of news and detail I want to talk about before I do whatever else I'm going to do. So first, we do the first thing first. Then, when I go to turn the broadcast off, I'm going from the news portion to Ratchet and Clank, then off again, and then whatever else comes after it. So that it's in its own stream segment, specifically since I've been making thumbnails for them. On with the buzzer. Should take me about what? An hour or so? To cover about each of these? Depending. Hello, Struggler. So, first things first, I wrote a thread. It's not like the thread that I wrote about drums, but it's up there. First, I need music for backing it. It's my usual. Looks like it's my usual. Rotation. Let's go with breakcore. Okay. So, I have wrote a thread, and that thread is this. Like a pop shit. I'm tuning it, don't worry. Very occasionally, I have to remind myself of the reasons why I know deeper thoughts about Poe's mind, and it's because he and I are 60% the same person. It's just that we go different ways about expressing our thoughts and opinions when we see them. So, there was a thread that Poe put up as a response to a person posting about toxic masculinity, severity politics, and chivalry. But this woman's attitude pissed me the fuck off enough to write a full thread breaking down the problem. I was already tuning it, or don't worry. And it looked like this. Tweet so perplexing, I've been thinking about it for an hour straight. It's slop discourse all around. Multicultural Hell City aside, I don't get what chivalry has to do with helping a stranger out. Men won't just help anyone out because the culture shifted and they can't have sex slave maids anymore. The gender of the tweet itself going all the way back to here. Lol, while I'm with a stroller getting helped up steps in the thunderstorm by tiny Asian girl while surrounded by indifferent dudes. Sorry, but some of you truly earn the loneliness epidemic. Lol, RIP to many of you. I know plenty of decent guys who aren't pathologically antisocial for strangers and thus haven't earned being lonely. I'm muting this because I don't care if you want to crash shut my replies because you know in your heart I'm describing you and I'm right. Lol, men are not lonely, I'm not lonely, you're the only one convincing. The guy only said, this is projection, you are the lonely one. A subset of men today are extremely shrill and whiny. Microplastics? Vax? Hard to say, but on God, we're gonna have the pods. You're claiming to get in there soon. Don't worry, boys. The response being said here being, not even disagreeing with you here, and I find the loneliness epidemic thing self-inflicted often. But chivalry was a social contract, not goodwill. You dismantled the contract, stack new risks, and wonder why men don't help. No script, no trust, no point. Kill the social code, expect atomization. This is a tweet that's so perplexing to this user that they were thinking about it for an hour straight. Then, it's labeled as slop discourse. From the response of activism. It's a metropolis in the third millennium. No shit you don't have the same social customs as homogeneous communities decades ago. If anything, the pedagogic failure is downstream from the same root causes. Multicultural Hell City aside, I don't get what chivalry has to do with helping a stranger out. Men won't just help anyone because the culture shifted and they can't have sex slaves anymore. But the actual discourse back in his original tweet, from this person he responded to. That's fine. I won't worry about if men are lonely or have high suicide rates. Again, nobody cares anyway. Like, what is this? For either of those. And the loneliness thing is literally across gender lines. Women are reported to have slightly higher levels even. I understand, you've done it out on the pathological antisocial behavior. Race to the bottom it is, then. Do you point out the problem, you can demonstrate the mechanics there. Therefore, you must also be pro that problem. I think bigger, stronger people should help weaker, smaller ones where appropriate. And you're a psycho if you need chivalry to dictate to you, and an even bigger psycho if not even chivalry can compel you to agree to it. Best of luck with your thing. I think bigger, stronger people should help weaker, smaller ones. Wonderful self-own. Good lord, you boys are stupid. Very often, I have to remind myself that the reason why Poe gets the flack he does is because he chooses to stick his head directly in the stupidity and crazy that is white woman without protection. Psychological condoms. You're not going to like this person as it keeps going forward. I can promise you that. What does that mean though, Carl? Well, that brings us back to the original thread. You cannot be short with your words, quick with your temper, bloody my nose, and then ask for band-aids to problems that you greedily created in your haste to equalize the rules of society under the guise of meekness to dominate the perceived strong. And then, further down in the comments, after the good lord you boys are stupid comment, people ask what's your problem? And mention that girls are suddenly weaker and smaller people and in need of help when it's convenient. Like, FYI, you are not the winner of that exchange. Really not the crowd I expected the statement women are usually smaller and weaker than men to be a contentious statement in. Wokeness really has run luck, I guess. Nowadays, it's not clear that Western women are small, considering their average weight is 170 pounds, or weak, backed by the weight and power of DEI and federal, state, and government computation. Chivalry was for women. Women are not ladies anymore. They're loud, fat, brash misandrists. Carry your own groceries, bitch, is the way. Lol, I think better, stronger people should help weaker, smaller ones as stated above. If that's not you relative to the average woman, then please consider yourself exempt from those expectations. What this woman is choosing to do here is the same reason why most people tell others that chivalry is dead. Chivalry, the assistance of mutual aid expected on men to be shamed by a cultural standard as a norm for what men should do in a society, is implicitly backed up on the reward that comes with Good Samaritanism. And Good Samaritanism is not something that is rewarded by proxy of existence. It is something that you have to do outwards rather than inwards. Which is why I said Good Samaritans start from the individual high trust of a small community to polite society writ large. The chain reaction here. Socialite posts extremely retarded post, implying that, haha, men deserve to be lonely because you're not jumping out of your way to go help women. But why would we do that? You told men writ large, don't talk to us, don't help us, don't approach us. Never. There is never a time to approach us. Men who are crazy, like me, said, haha, but you actually lied me though. And for the people who didn't believe this junk, we're happy and thriving with the women that want us, and the ones that are gay, the women that want them, and for the men that are gay but love men, for the men that love them. No matter how they identify or how they socially procrastinate with a partner, the people who don't believe this garbage and junk don't fall afoul of the problem that a misandrist does, because she is a feminist misandrist. Don't worry about it. You're gonna see. We're almost there. She goes out to then pick problems with people, which then is the breakdown here of the last post. You are not owed my help. You are not privy to my innermost sanctum, world, or aid. Believing that I must uphold a social contract that your social dogma tore up and then penned a dogmatic replacement for, where I and all men are disposable, defective robots, doesn't make you kind. You're third generation upper middle class yuppie-dom, talking down to everyone else because inconveniences like being a huge bitch is something that you can flick off. You're not in positions where you actually can or would appreciate the soft power of social mutual aid. None of your insights are thought-provoking or new, but they are yours. No man would seek to take that away from you. The second you are reminded that other people also have options, you shut off any and all discourse because your dopamine hit for the day has already been met. Women like you are exactly what kills random acts of kindness, which is what Good Samaritanism is. It's random acts of kindness by people, simply because they considered what it would be like if they were to do it for you, and what it would feel like if it was done for them, and they're doing it in turn because they're paying it forward. Because you think anyone who isn't explicitly being nice, because they always wanted to, are being manipulative to fuck you. And you always assume that they want to fuck you, because you're as shortage with your mental faculties as you are with your words. I typed out R you are with your words because I didn't double check the as. I was doing this with my fingers, and I hit the AS, but then hit the R twice. And the reason why I typed that is because of what this person then chose to put down in their messages. It might look raw through the chroma key, so I'll read them to you. I hope not enough time has passed for me to say that I found the eternal sunshine of the spotless mind couple almost unbearingly fucking annoying, if I'm being honest. Shut up. Start huffing chemicals or do some whippets if you're really that sad about it, then, you middle-class cowards. It feels like the first time in ages I've seen suicide over and over again, right up front, right in headlines. Without all these outlets and accessory, one more and more of a takes own life unalive, tragically passed after a long battle with mental health struggles type wave. What happened, guys? Right. Of course, I mean, yeah, women do love to change their minds. Am I right, fellas? Ha 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 ha. My mom is going through her collection of my grandmother and great-grandmother's gloves, and now I'll have you all know I actually come from a long line of soft-goths. Humble bragging about wealth. And then, lol, rip to many of you, same post from the original tweet. Then, how it feels to talk in depth about your day while eating a fruit cup at a guy who hasn't quite realized that you're absolutely not going to sleep with him. With absolutely no integer that explains exactly what makes her think that the guy wants to sleep with her. And then, not going to read the comments, but I'm betting at least there's at least one guy saying something like, you guys want equality so bad, this is what you get. Not our problem, you're a stupid feminist and something about men and women's bathrooms and troons and blah 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 blah. It's like you're some kind of psychic! This, right here, is the majority of what makes people think that there is a problem with the women of society in general, specifically specialized unto the socialite yuppie. I'm not sure if it's because they were born in the 90s, the same way that we were, and because of access to wealth has clouded their judgment based on them believing that they would never be the woman in this situation. But I have seen many a times where people will use this attitude and then act as though it is at all a normality. Because when you start digging into the replies, you can clearly see that this was a fish for women. And there are other people speaking on things that are very glaringly obvious to me as a man, and it is obvious to others like you in chat, because you either are well adjusted, or you can clearly tell they are fishing for compliments, and then they are humble bragging about where they live, because this is the example of a shitlib. This is a liberal who is so disaffected with reality and with gender politics that they've created the floor for that they refuse to sleep in the bed. So, randomly, you have a woman speaking about pregnant women being treated like they're being protected by Asian women that treat them like guardian angels. And then the smugness of bragging about self-satisfaction for behavior that is unearned and is also unrewarding. Asian women are angels towards pregnant women. It's so beautiful. In general, I think New York Cityers, so we know that they're an upper yuppie in New York City, because with gloves like those come from the Art Deco era. Don't get enough credit for being like brusque and verbally abrasive, but helpful in action. But yeah, kudos to this girl for upholding that, and boo these men for letting the city down. New York City being let down by men, rather than New York City letting men down. Because the last time a Good Samaritan tried to help in New York City, when it came to other people being terrorized and a Good Samaritan trying to do what he could to help, you tried to fucking send him to jail. If not, demand that he be lynched for the crime of stopping a black person. Then, they don't understand that when you help people upstairs, it fills you with a tremendous sense of smug self-satisfaction. I do it all the time. You get a mother's good sun high that lasts for at least 10 minutes. Seriously, I love briefly helping strangers a small amount. The effort to smugness return ratio is often unbeatable. Quirky, hecking young chungus attitudes are a cancer on women, and I would prefer that all women be actually frumpy in their interpersonal worlds if the alternative of allowing people to have quirky inner lives is that they turn out to act like this. Fortunately, the reason this is why they are is because they are probably a New York City person, which means this is probably a fucking theater kid. A smug theater kid. But that kind of stands for itself. Then the rational position. Not my kid, not my problem. Loneliness earned. I don't know the woman. As much as I'd like to help them, I might get arrested, or shot, or killed. Look at my complexion, chat. I can't go up and help a random person. I'm gonna be accused of being a black monster. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I've been racially castigated away from being a good Samaritan. Anytime I open my black mouth, I'm likely to get shot in it. That's what you believe. That's what you said. I can give you something that shows how New York City failed its people right now. It's infuriating. Throw it in on the side. Truly, living while Kyle. When you're so progressive, it becomes racist. Is it racist to say that an Asian girl is Asian? I had no idea. Wow. I get what you're saying, and I personally would help since a child is involved, but a lot of poor experiences with women have trained men to be indifferent to women where they wouldn't be if it was 10 or 20 years ago. For this to heal, there needs to be less men gross/all rapists rhetoric. Lol, when men stop doing the overwhelming arousal gross raping, I'll get straight on that! So, when offered the attitude of, listen, I understand the point that you're making, but you understand that the reason they don't do this is because of the rhetoric that you put out there about your behavior? I'm not going to stop the rhetoric. I'm just going to become even more of a pessimist. And I'm going to be a dick to your face. Because how dare you tell me about the mechanisms? So, where that person called out exactly that on post, you recognize the mechanisms that are involved and how they interact with each other as cogs in a wheel. Therefore, I'm assuming you must be part of the problem. Because if you are intellectually as wise or wiser than I am, I can't speak down to you anymore. Get back in your place, stupid Neanderthal. Those are the steps it takes for them to immediately decide to throw away all basic civility and pretend the facade is even worth keeping up anymore, before they just simply start punching you in your face. I'm not going to say that it's inherent on racism, but it is something that is inherent on sexism. She does it clearly more to men than she does to women. But I haven't seen a single woman from the time I spent skimming and then scanning and then studying through the comments of females to male comments in the same way possible. Although, whenever a person points out the behavior, usually they double down in this way by saying loneliness deserved. So on the next one. Men have been socially castrated due to the mission-based culture that we have looming over our heads where we interact with women, especially if those women are strangers. A lot of men fear trying to help women because we think women perceive us as threats. So it's easier to not. I think he was going for easier to not. To where their response is, loneliness deserved! If there is a fear that I have that my act of kindness will get me arrested, murdered, killed, or labeled as a rapist, the same way that if I look at a person in the gym for too long, I'm going to be accused as being a fucking peeping Tom, why would I help somebody? That wouldn't help. Not me or anyone fucking else. So that's annoying shit. Then, more glazing. This is very accurate, and I'm glad that mom got help. Screw the unhelpful men. My mom's a tiny Asian. Nobody fucking asked. How is it relevant that she was Asian? It seems kind of weird for you to mention. She had a tote bag that said Asian American Girl Club or something close to that written prominently on it. Probably that fact on average that when Asian women tended to be on the smaller side. The mom and stroller were both bigger than her. Factored in. Didn't think about it too hard. Is that okay with you? I'm confused. Do we owe you help? Literal, genuine question. You are confused. Yeah, obviously. Hello? Good luck! Okay, so we do owe you help. Thanks for the heads up. Oh, no. Human decency? Yes. We notice when that's lacking. Reminds me of the giving up seats for women argument, to be honest. No able-bodied woman no able-bodied unencumbered adult owes another able-bodied unencumbered adult a seat or should even feel remotely obliged to offer it. But just like I'll give up my seat to an old man with a cane, you're a dick if you don't help a woman with a kid struggling left a stroller, you psycho! Notice I never said that I wouldn't do it. Notice how you kept asking about owing people something? You were never concerned about helping! You didn't have to. Your initial question made it clear that you wouldn't. It was implied! Peak online behavior, lol. I'll gladly help out a woman with her stroller if she was struggling. Does that mean that I would do so if I wasn't asked? Should I have no consideration for if she seems to not want to be approached in such a vulnerable state? The original sentiment about men being selfish to the point that they victimize their own loneliness is very true. Acting that all people should immediately ask anyone at any time when they need something and think that's lesser of them if they don't. Borderline antisocial and ignorant! The fact that you can justify not offering it to help people is the problem. You don't want to bother her because she's vulnerable. You think she's in danger and you don't think offering her help is a good idea? You make up stories about what's happening and what women are thinking. You don't want to bother helping her because she's vulnerable? Can you read? Like, seriously, I didn't say anything like that. This is probably the most annoying type of progression of this attitude. Because this is what I do. Right? Poe, he's over here. He is more focused on the social reaction that he gets for whatever peppered response he gives gets him the best integer. I'm over here. I'm picking apart the very meticulous issue of this problem, and I'm getting down to the individual level. Poe's on per capita. I'm over here on, and that's why nobody wants to lick coos. Also, I watch Sinners. I'm about to be overusing coos a lot, because it's not a slur! I'm over here like, this is why individually nobody wants to lick your coos. It is this exchange. Right here. This exchange. This type of attitude of exchange. The fact that this is how men have been trained to behave. By the women who said, teach men not to rape. This is the fostering. This is why I say you treat men like they are defective robots. No matter my agency, no matter my investment, no matter my interest, no matter my willingness to do so, and a benign question is now read as toxicity. Before I'm even able to speak my thoughts, or my opinions, or my attitude, or my disposition is even factored in to anything else. This is the kind of, but you were never going to anyway type shit that makes me say, nope, go fuck yourself. The same interaction that happens when a person acts like this in a video game and I say they go and play by yourself, or I'm going to play by myself, is the same interaction that all men have when they engage in this. And the notable part is how quickly they were willing to try and base it down as, well, you're not owed the help, but I am owed the help. Because the infliction of shame is a part of the social contract of a high-trust society that has expectations of the gender norm. Whether or not men or women help this supposed pregnant woman, it is now a trolley experiment. Actually, no, it's a shopping cart experiment. There's a pregnant woman in front of you, chat. She is very clearly 8 weeks and a half months to go. She might even pop right now. She is struggling with a 3-year-old infant. It does not appear that there is any man that she is there at this location with that is willing to assist her, or is there to assist her. So assume no husband, no boyfriend, no man she's fucking for dick and comfort. She is struggling to put away her groceries and manage her child at the same time. Do you help her? The mechanism should be, I help woman, I don't help woman. But that's a trick question. It's actually, if woman help woman. Sisterhood, sisterhood, sisterhood. If man help woman. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do. Don't help woman. Any answer, despite the logic. You're an evil, sexist, racist pig and you deserve to die alone. Instead of taking the Faustian bargain, the person doesn't even answer the question of whether or not they'd help him or not. Because this is what happens if you answer the question. This is what happens when you ask the question. How does that make fucking sense? Make that shit make sense to me, bro. Hello, Tusky. The insidious part here is the attitude that, despite the person asking the question having never said that they wouldn't help, the imposition of every person to assume that it was implied that they wouldn't help means that you do in fact believe that there is somebody's response that is owed for their reaction. Period. Because then, when asked further, what race was the mom and why didn't you mention that but mention the race of the Asian girl? Mom, as well as most of the men standing around her, were all white. I don't think the race of the girl helping was a relevant detail to include, but in fairness, she really had a big ass sign in the form of a tote bag labeling her as an Asian, so it's probably the most visual feature. Non-Asian people have tote bags with Asian words on it too? Defensive much? I'm answering your question about why I mentioned a specific person's race by explaining the tote was made Asian. Is that offensive? I don't get it, bro. This person is very short with their temper and words and attitude. That's probably the fifth thing I noticed about them as I started reading through comments myself. Why they felt the need to use race, and then when people refer to the fact that they used race to reply to something and ask them why they did that, they become very, very quick to become a smug asshole. Then we get to the not gonna read the comments part. Are men replying to you saying that women wanted freedom and rights and so men are not going to be decent human beings to them anymore? Question mark. This narrative needs to die. Because this right here is the reason why men don't try in the first place. Women wanted freedom and rights, so men aren't going to be decent human beings to them anymore. How does that make sense? I see a random person choose to come through the door right behind me. Because I chose to open the door up, it makes me a decent human being. It's the kind of instance of antagonization that makes a person change their attitude and brain chemistry, so they just don't open the door for anyone anymore. It'd be really nice if you did so. I don't fucking care. There are people in this world that don't deserve the kindness. So I get punished because they're a dick? Yup, that's what a high-stress society does. Welcome to low-stress society in America. Why is your expectation that men should be the ones to help? Why aren't you expecting women to do so? What happened to the sisterhood? I think it's easier for larger, stronger people to help deal with picking up bags and things than weaker, smaller people, so it makes sense for them to. But if they don't want to, it's fine. They just probably deserve to be lonely and have no one to care about them. I hope that clarifies things! This one is important because you need to read the next one to make sense of it. This post is annoying. Men in the comments getting offended are annoying. You people need help. To be honest, I gotta stop posting about people in the subway who need help or are getting up to antics. It always blows up way bigger than I anticipate, and then I get all sorts of weirdos flipping out about largely offhand remarks. I think that bigger, larger, stronger people should help with bigger, larger, stronger tasks. Okay, that's great. I heard that in New York City, y'all got a lot of muscle mommies out there. A lot of goth girls going up to the gym and bulking. Why don't you get Olga and Helga to go help with pick up her shit then? Leave me, Derek, Merrick, and Darius alone. We don't want to help. Oh, because I don't want to help, I deserve to be lonely. Well, too bad for you. I like white women. I'm already secured. I won't die alone. My bloodline will continue on. So men should be the ones that do it because men are bigger than stronger. Damn, that's a really weird way for you to admit that that biological social Darwinism is a thing. And it's great for you to admit that men are men because men aren't women. Thank you for confirming that there are only two types of genders. There's a lot of places you can go with this. Lots of places you can go with this. Don't you dare ask them about the transgenders, though. Oh no, I mentioned the transgenders, therefore I'm doing the Troon thing. Then, the Incels.co account is here, by the way. This has nothing to do with loneliness epidemic. Women broke that social contract. Aren't women strong and independent enough and don't need no man? You told us we were creeps. You told us you don't trust us. You made a false accusation against us. You told us not to approach you at the gym, grocery store, bar, parking lot. You told us that you're strong and independent and that you don't need no man. You told us that anything you can do, I can do better than anything you can do, I can do for you. You told us you choose the bear instead of us. So choose the bear. You sound lonely and frustrated. It sounds like you're not paying attention. That's okay, though. You will. This man you are arguing with is essentially a modern-day slave. Women are his master. He is the drone in the hive, and these women will push him out of the hive and go to cold and the first time a frost arrives. I'm going to be the first one of many to explain that this particular instance, ironically enough, it's not the involuntary celibate account that's doing it. This particular instance in these kinds of exec trades, this is where all of us would say all of you are fucking coping and crazy and need to go the fuck outside. Now, let's pre-posit that because I'm pontificating about this and showing this to you all as a piece of content on a stream to begin with anyways, that I, too, could go outside. And I did. I went to a Mongolian buffet on Sunday, I think. Yeah, Sunday. No, it was Saturday. Yesterday was Sunday. And it was delicious. I'll tell you all about it after I'm done doing this shit. But, considering that I do go outside, and that it's possible to notice things, because I'm a prime noticer, there is a world where, in the same way that she's fucking annoying, and people that do this are annoying, because this is just as social proselytizing as this is social proselytizing, the response here from the involuntary celibate is the correct response to be had. None of the instance in integer of people interacting with a person, and therefore because they didn't do that interaction, they deserve to die alone, is a way for you to then say that all men everywhere in general specifically deserve to die as incels. This is literally begging the question and also burying the lead. It doesn't amount to any kind of good. It doesn't amount to any kind of positivity. It does not spark joy. And because I'm a maximizer of good rather than a minimizer of harm, at least in this instance, this user is what happens when you allow for someone to act as though the high ground is justified. Because this is maximum peak power feminism. Fuck men at all times if they don't do what I want. But what about when they do what you want? No, fuck men. They're supposed to do this. It's the bare minimum. The bar is in hell. There's no winning. So why would I choose to get involved in this society where I'm not even seen as a human being? Because if I was seen as a second-class citizen, technically you'd be seeing me as a type of citizen. I'm not even a citizen. I'm an automaton. I do what I'm told. Otherwise, I'm defective and I go to the scrapyard and I get melted down for extra parts. Who at all is going to interact and deal with that kind of an attitude where they have the choice to interact? Because the only way to force this kind of engagement is to take people and you make them slaves. So the comments about men decided that women, when they asked for human decency, rights, and freedoms, decided to not be treated like human beings. It's actually the inverse. Those that chose to believe this type of social dogma decided that men are not humans and don't deserve collaborative goodwill, rights, or even the benefit of the doubt. Where, if they are prepubescent, there's a chance they can be saved if we teach men not to rape. If they're post-pubescent, and they're a part of the demographic that you hate the most, the white male, then you can get away with treating them like garbage. Because, haha, they're white men, it doesn't matter. But then, if they're male, but they exist in one of the frenalities of the races, and the genders, and the gender expressions, and the, what's the word they use now? Creative, communal, commonality expression. You're gonna hear about that one in like 5 to 6 months. Don't worry. Anything that stands in for race, gender, class, caste, or ethno-religious status. Anything that can differentiate a person by any means. Doesn't matter if they're a minority, doesn't matter if they're a global minority. Anything that makes you not white becomes an example of either you being a credit to your race or you being an example of the detriment of your race, to the detriment of your character in that moment. I would say that I think that a clan member would blush at this level of snap attitude. It's a special kind of hell. God forbid you fall in love with a woman like this. I'll be right back. Anyways, to summarize, I wrote a thread about this woman and her antics and her behavior. Because, as a follow-up to that conversation that I had yesterday with Struggler, this is that attitude that I was talking about writ large. This is what makes people not want to interact with society, where they would rather die alone than ever end up being someone that ended up making a person like this have a better life. Because if you ever help a person like this, they don't appreciate it. They don't appreciate it, they don't care for it, and their lives are not made better for it. Because the assistance does not better them. It goes in and it goes out. They take in the behavior, they take in the attitude, and at no point do they appreciate a single thing that was done for them. And it does not change their brain chemistry for the better. I wonder what they actually do about the men who tell them everything that they want to hear, and then those guys end up being abusive. They would say they were always a danger and they never trusted them. That's why. They were a danger, they never trusted them, they never cared for them. And when they were revealed to be the monster that they assumed that all men must be, it's confirmation bias. Surprisingly, I covered that with 20 minutes to spare. Let's go again. Let's go again. Okay, next thing. Let's talk about the Oblivion mod situation. Enter Arch Warhammer.
I was away chasing Polish prostitutes through Schindler's factory. As one does, something interesting happened on the internet, and by the way, don't mind the suddenly awful audio quality. Whilst I was away, my audio interface decided to, completely on its own, seppuku itself, which is apparently something electronics just do occasionally these days. call me an old foggy, but I remember the days when you bought a refrigerator and the damn thing would keep on trucking for decades.
That's nice, Arch. Get on with it.
Now, it feels like almost unavoidably 6 months after the payment clears, dead.
I don't care, Arch. Get on with it.
Odd, that. But that is neither here nor there. This is the interesting thing that happened. I made a video talking about the Oblivion remaster and how Todd Howard is obviously an isekai protagonist capable of selling sand in the Sahara at this point. And one of the only drawbacks of the remaster is that they introduced the obviously political change of removing male and female with body type 1 and body type 2, of course.
Much to the chagrin of people like Dave Riviera desperately proclaiming, "It's woke, let's go!" Because it's the most controversial, non-controversial nothing burger in the existence of the history of all of the gaming industry. Now, I know why this is important when it comes to the Japanese shit. Because the Japanese shit is Western imperialism pushing upon the Eastern standards of their development cycle. It is the West pushing the bullshit onto them. And in that capacity, when you see Capcom make localization standards for how they want to go about talking about it, inserting into the games, the internal culture of how it affects the company, and all this other dog shit, there are multiple developers, multiple indie teams, and multiple single-man indie teams that say, "It's stupid and I hate it, I don't see the point of it." We have seen this to be the case with every single example where body type A and body type B is literally just men and women with extra steps. Because what's the point of having a type of armor that can only be equipped by body type A, and then an only type of body armor that can only be equipped, or a quest that can only be experienced differently by body type B, if the entire point of A and B is to crush down an option that literally wouldn't matter? If playing as a male and playing as a female doesn't create a explosive divergent standard where multiple choice parallaxes are enabled or disallowed from me because of that decision choice, it's a choice that you might as well not even give me an option to pick. Because what's the fucking point of picking it? And that's assuming that you're playing a game that doesn't have a choice that is an identifier that is a pastiche of the older CRPG genre. I thought he was Sargon of Akkad's brother. Arch Warhammer is not related to Carl. He's not related to Carl. British Carl, that is. And yes, Arch Warhammer is a real Brit man. But a giant-ass forehead. Anyways. Login! The externalities of body type A and body type B don't have a factor when it comes to a CRPG. Because if male and female is a suggestion, should the quests be the same, should the opportunities be the same, the only purpose to having body type A and body type B is to try to sanitize any suggestion of gender and sex in the hyperpolitical space. That's it. That's the only reason. Other than body type A and B then being a stand-in, thank you, Richard, being a stand-in for a different body type. So, if the only choices are A and B, it is very clearly male-female. If we're talking about something like a space traveling game, body type A and B could be the human male standard and the human female standard. And then C, D, and E could be robot, alien type 1, alien type 2, and so on and so on and so on. So, for Dragon Ball Xenoverse 1 and 2, your character could be a human, Saiyan, Majin, a type of Kai, whatever Deborah is, which I'm pretty sure is just basic demon, and so on and so on and so on. Namekian, the planet that Goku had to go to learn instant transmission, and so on and so on and so on. In that instance, body type now is being used to refer to multiple races. So, the way that you could describe a human could be the same way that an alien species that comes from a planet called Veldata of the Veldachians choose to talk about the Boglodites and other such made-up words to describe a alien enough sounding race. The same way that you could in high fantasy choose to involve type A and type B and type C and type D to refer to human, drow, orc, halflings, gnomes, dryads, mares, half unicorn, half centaur creatures, gorgons, but not specifically Medusa, and so on. You could have multiple races referred to by a delineating word that would then be replaced with the thing that describes them. If the only reason that it's left as type A and type B is simply because the explanation then explains what they are based on your choices, it's a moot point. Hence, why it doesn't fucking matter. But that's just if you're viewing it from the Japanese Western perspective. If you're looking at it from purely the Western perspective, where the majority of the behavior is unchanging, it doesn't matter. Everything has already been changed to type A and type B, because it makes it easier for them with being less creative, which is a shame. But it is what it is. The majority of our video games are either indie title where you play as a fixed character, of which the majority of them now are overwhelmingly female protagonists. It is characters that are not human, therefore their genders do not matter, and if they are of different types of races or genders or species, it adds to the quirk of the system, a la something like Nuclear Throne. Or it's a story-based game where any choice that I make does not truly matter because it's the same experience all the way through. So, set protagonist, alternate durantagonists, or not, what is the point of complaining about it?
And I argued in the video this wasn't a big deal at all, it'll be modded out within hours, and indeed it was modded out within hours. Body type selector, male and female.
And that's exactly how that's supposed to go. Because it's a video game that is historically known for modding, and because it is a video game historically known for modding, the reaction a person can have to the mod scene with seeing this should be the correct reaction you have every time. Oh no, I don't like this character that's in this game, and I'm playing on PC. Whatever will I do? Goes to mod store, gets mods, and now Dame Lin has a big fat Fudacock. That's more or less how most people's attitudes go in that way. Why are they getting the Fudacock? Because they think it's funny. Why are they getting the Fudacock and why are they drawing it so specifically in detail? Because they're probably going to use it to make porn photos. Why are they molding it and sculpting it based on the rest of it? Because they're not lazy. The same way that you could have a person make that infamous shitpost about Bryce Dallas Howard and Ava Green as 8-foot-tall dummy mommies that think having sex with their son is taking care of them, having extremely maternal instincts, and wanting to take off the safety protocols and running the program so that he can get the Star Trek future we truly believe we deserve. Is the same reason there is a person who chose to make a dragon mod where he has the head of a pro wrestler. It's because I can. And it's the only reason that I should need to have. Because I can. But of course, we live in this time period, so the next thing that happens is obvious.
Then, equally, predictably, that mod was taken off Nexus Mods, which is an avowedly left-wing site, progressive in ideology, in belief, and in their stated terms of service and moderation policies.
And usually you'd think that that kind of thing would make them lose their relevance, because how many times has this been now? I want to count on my fingers 11. 11 times that the Unfun Squad at Nexus Mods has tried to tell people that they can't do things. Now, those of you who already know that I made tweets about this, showing the Prime noticing of it, especially since they have now tried to assume the Bayonetta superposition. Already know that this is a joke. So, I have two things to show you. This one is the first. Where's the second one? Here we go. And this one is the second. First things first. The Nexus Modites are now at the point of rewriting the narrative and flipping the Bayonetta superposition to and from as, haha, you guys were mad about letters. It's not that big a deal, you chuds. How dare you mod? How can he mod? How can he mod? How can he mod my game? We're being treated poorly because it's your fault for modding the game. And they have done this because they are trying to save face that because they tried this with Oblivion of all things, Nexus Mods caved because they could not win. It is obvious, blatant propaganda. I'm going to retweet it all. It is obvious, blatant propaganda that they can bury the lead like this, memory hole the controversies, and try to gain ground so that they don't have to face backlash whenever they want to try and remove things in the future. Every time this has been the case. And this time, it's a giant optics loss because it's that obvious, that popular, and it's that large of a topic. Usually when this kind of thing happens, it becomes the way... It becomes the way that conversations get controlled. This is where Actman and other fucking clout goblins and snakes come in. Which leads to Actman, and specifically in this case, Grums, being a particular clout goblin that tries to make their way in. Using this as a thought-terminating cliche to do away with the consideration that they have to think about the fact that this is not something that is important or popular for them to be concerned with, and ultimately a thing that they believe that they can be able to excuse away as an important factor that is not actually that important. Because from this post, we then read the following. Nexus Mods ends the culture war on their site. Nexus Mod explanation of the result of the reversal of the MF signals has signals withdrawal from the culture war. They are walking a thin line here, trying to appease the activists. We recognize that mods like this can bring in sensitive discussion around gender and identity to the forefront, but then they back off. Our platform exists to support creative expression in modding, not to serve as a battleground to the broader culture or political debates. If you prefer not to see this content, we encourage you to make use of the content blocking tools. This is as it should be. Don't politically censor mods and let perpetually offended people block us using the block button. Let's see how this new policy acts going forward. This does not end the culture war. This prevents Nexus Mods from losing site users to competitors, because the logic is clear as day. Nexus Mods has done this multiple times over, and every time that it was discussed, it was brought up, whether it be by people who were affected by it directly, by clout sharks trying to harass people, like that of the Actman attempting to harass Heels vs. Babyface, and the entire internet being piss baby mad that he was right, to this day, remembering his complaints more than the video game that he was complaining about, which is a sign of victory, especially in culture as well as the argument. Every time it happens that they get put into the center light because people are saying, haha, they did it again, haha, they did it again, it becomes a list of more games that you're choosing to exclude then there are games that you're choosing to include. Examples of hypocrisy, as well as examples of sheer, blatant, friend-enemy distinction used as a justification to attack whoever you don't like and don't want. The same way that I just went over a thread about a shitlib NYC leftist choosing to browbeat men for the crime of not being a slave to women. Unprompted. You have people who will make fun of Nexus mods and people who will then agree with Nexus mods and their bans and their removals as an example of, yes, finally, taking out the trash in the neighborhood. And it's gotten enough of a problem that people are threatened to stop paying for the premium costs. Now, I'd ask why the fuck you're paying for a website that should be free, but assuming that it's mod hosters and not just mod users and downloaders, people have threatened to leave the site and to take their business to other competitor businesses. So, they are now being forced, especially with the optics that come with this big of a fucking loss, and this big of a fucking brouhaha, that they have to bend the knee. But they're not bending the knee to end the culture war. They're doing it so they can avoid being associated with the Know Your Meme page. They do not want to become a controversial talking point that then makes them lose ground in the culture war. Who does it create issues for when I or we don't have to tell somebody about the mods that I use, when they can just choose to not engage and block the content that they don't want to see? Now, I've seen the mods. That's why I mentioned them. I've seen the Dame Aylin marbled cock mods. They are mostly being used by people who are making animated content. Specifically to whether they have a big fetish for Dame Aylin or Isabel, or what I want to see, somebody who has a big fetish to see Dame Aylin stand on top of and over, forgetting her name, the ball leader from Baldur's Gate 3. When I have new information come in, old information goes out until I can remember it. Or in the red. As much as there are people who just simply want to have the bugs in the game get fixed by mods, there are people who are downloading mods like that for the same way that they wanted to make mods in Skyrim or even Oblivion for Macho Man Randy Savage. The same motivation for whatever purpose they have. Why do I have to stop them from doing what they want? And should they have the right to stop me from doing what I want? In this case, do you have the right to stop me from having access to download a mod that, even if you don't like it, has nothing to do with you and ultimately doesn't hurt you? In fact, the fact that I have to download a mod to return a standard that would have been a normal nomenclature in the industry should be a sign that the industry is giving you what you want already. But what you don't want isn't just there to be no male-female standard so that transgenders do not feel that they're being put out and they can make themselves in the game. So body type becomes the replacement for gender and gender outward expression. No. What you want is you want hegemonic control from the top down. You want there to be no means to remove it, no way to mod it out, no way to put it there. They are forced to wear it like a badge of shame. It's the new Scarlet Letter, instead. As is with the gender expression, it is with the trans flags, and it is with anything that can be seen as a political statement. You want people to not be able to remove it, and you don't want them to be able to talk about it, and you want them to be given lashings if they even dare to talk about it. Hence, this is for the fact that they cannot make a change without being blasted for hypocrisy that people can see and hear every single game release that attempts to glaze over the unneeded changes of RPG values to outmoded for a modern audience, because the virtue signalers are outnumbered in this case, 10-1. We already know these things don't buy games. So, we know that if they were to buy a game, they're also not going to be likely to mod it the way that I would mod it. Because of course they mod their games differently. Look at all the mods that exist for fucking Stardew Valley. But they mod specifically in certain ways where they would feel comfortable to do so. Because they're outnumbered here, they're the people who are downloading mods. The people who are making the mods, they could be transgender and they could want to see the big fat Fudocock the same way that a fucking degenerate does too. You're standing in the middle of them and their enjoyment. So why should they provide you material if you're just going to punish them because you don't like the thing that they do? If you don't want my entire collection, I'll put my collection on another website. And if the problem is that they were exclusive to Nexus Mods and you're punishing them for the crime of not agreeing with you 99.99%, welcome to the Ethan Klein mode. We'll take all the content off the site and we'll go somewhere else. How do you like that? They didn't. So, they bent the knee. And now, they themselves are supporting people to be able to find where to find the mod themselves if you go to the comment section on those threads. You can blame the Act Man. I do. You can blame the Culture Vultures, like Grums. I certainly do. And you can blame Clap Sharks, like Airbagged. I certainly do. But the fact of the matter is, it's just desserts for being annoying power trippers. We don't care that you are so upset about male-female that you feel the need to remove mods that point out the fact that it's there. By all means, call people bald, whiny, picky babies because they dare to say, I don't want it. They aren't even saying it to you directly. They're just going someplace else. And they are following them into their homes. Seeing that they're not putting it there. And who remembers that comic? Who remembers that comic? The one where a person has somebody in their home and it's the choice between gender non-conforming and gender conforming. And they're trying to click the button like, this is how they think we're trying to make them behave. Click it! Click it! Click the gay button! That's you making them click the gay button! They didn't cope about it, they didn't seethe about it, they didn't mention shit about it. They just said, that's gay. I'm gonna download a mod. No! Why do you mod? Why do you mod? Why do you mod? It's fine as it is! Just play the game! No, I want to mod it. Why do you have to mod it? The whininess, the beatitude, the behavior, the reaction, the fucking breakdown, the fucking coping and seething meltdown. Every single bit of it. Mwah! Delicious. No, I wasn't thinking about Minthara. I was thinking about Orin the Red. She's got potential. But Minthara too. Mostly because I want her to be mean to me. Anyways. All of that shit. That's not relevant, Hurley. All of that shit. You're correct, Boster. Is a pressure tactic. And unfortunately, in this situation, people have exerted more pressure on Nexus Mods because of how they've acted than they did before. Because we have a physical list of it happening. They're not just mad that people are perceiving the problem, as they usually are. They are mad as fuck. Because they have examples of them doing it live in action. These particular instances on this particular post here are the reason why. Summary to that being, when I put together these posts here, this is exactly the attitude and the words they have used every single time. Oh no, they changed some text. The game is forever ruined. Honk the clown nose. From Pirate Nation, the gaming industry is evolving backwards. From Oblivion to Morrowind to Skyrim to Oblivion Remastered. Male, female, gender, male, female. Morrowind, change sex, change face, change race. Skyrim, sex. Oblivion, body type 1, body type 2. Therefore, as I've explained before with Bayonetta superposition, it's a Mott and Bailey strategy. Whatever strategy gives them the best gaining ground optical argument is the one they will forget and the one they will swap to. So, the Kukurio credits, where they said, why can't you just be like X? Why can't you just be like X? Why can't you just be like X? Here's where it starts. You're just mad about some letters. Response from a person who's in the modding conversation. You don't get to claim it was a small deal while banning mods to change it back. It's not a big deal, you chuds! Why do you care? It's just some words! Okay, if it's just some words, why are you banning the mods? It doesn't matter. It's a single-player game. Why can't I play how I want? Click! How dare you mod? How dare you mod? Who told you to mod? How dare you mod? How dare you mod from me? You of all people don't get to talk when you all started it by creating the mod to begin with, and then start to talk shit while you all paid for Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk, Power World, that has the body top buff, along with Eldraine, and etc. You guys are delusional and hypocritical as fuck. Please notice that not a single fucking person gives a damn about this person's opinion, because they did not like this opinion. They are clearly on the outs. But this is the angle at which many of them go from. It's the same kind of energy that would have been given to that feminist, had the feminist not just done it from the angle of trying to attack men, but did it from the angle of attacking people in general who didn't dare to believe and act the way that they thought that they should believe. This is a moralistic ask, where the moralistic ask is, why aren't you doing what I told you to do? And the response is, because I don't know you and I don't like you, fuck off. And instead of taking this as the integer of, maybe I shouldn't push my viewpoints on other people, it instead becomes the integer of, I told you to do something, so you should go do it. And if you don't, I'm gonna punish you. Lol, you're not the boss of me, you can't punish me. So I'll show you, and then the mod gets taken down from Nexus mods. That's usually the integer of how it works in. But notice the examples that they chose to name. They are now this ass mad that it's gotten here. And of course the natural reaction. No, we didn't start this by creating the mod. You started this, whether because Bethesda removed it at your insistence or because you went and got the mod removed. Half of you retards insisted it didn't matter, and the other half cry shit like this, losing your goddamn heads about it. Mad about letters, it's not a big deal. How dare you mod, it's your fault for modding. The fact that I have these screen caps of this interaction is the reason why Nexus is reacting the way that they are reacting. Because let's say, for sake of argument, S-Sticks is actually a head moderator in the internals of the Nexus mods. And this is full-throatedly how they feel about people talking. Oh wow, that's crazy. That's your actual thought point and the opinion and belief? Let me just take that picture, laminate that shit. I have examples of niggas being out on the internet. I have examples here. See them coping and seething live on air. When they say it doesn't happen, come up with examples of it happening. Fear of being perceived. And now, they have to save face, because they've lost the argument. They've lost the ground, they've lost the argument, they can't hide the fact that they lost the ground in the argument, and everybody can see that the Emperor has no clothes. And they're willing to laugh at him about it. The last part there, that's the linchpin. Shock, blame, embarrassment, and making sure you rub their nose in it like a dog. For so long, I believe the word people are using to describe it is dark woke. For so long, the dark woke have decided that it is acceptable to harass people for the crime of thinking differently. So, for the crime of being different, we're going to make fun of you because you felt it was necessary, that it was a factor you could even shame us about. That other week, where a person tried to comment saying that I cared about the body type shit, I don't. But you know what I do care about? That you care about it. And you care about thinking that I care about it. And you cannot tell me what I think. And you can't describe what I think either. Because you don't know what I think. Because you've never cared to know. You've just used me as an effigy to burn as a whipping boy. And to stab like a voodoo doll whenever you wanted to vent your frustrations. And now that we have multiple case examples, not just for myself, but others as well. Posts that are more viral than mine. Posts that are more prolific and exemplematic of mine. That have shown that this is the attitude that they have. You can't get away from this now. Imagine if it was Asmongold that was saying it. And that would then go viral. There's no getting away from it. Roachman talked about it. You can't hide from it. The scintillating light of revelation. So the only choice is either fall on your sword and fall off your horse, or turn blue in the face and say, no it isn't, 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 and then get embarrassed because you sound even stupider because you're coping. That's the entire reality behind what he's about to explain. But you would not know this if I did not show you the context. So, now with this context, let us continue.
As we will get back to in a little bit. But then, something really weird happened. The mod was reinstated, and is currently very popular. 4.7k upvotes, which is more than basically anything else, and 27.8k downloads, which is quite a lot. A whole heck of a lot, actually, if we compare them to certain other mods of a similar ilk. So this was accompanied by a community note regarding this mod, where they basically say that, oh, we didn't take it down because of politics. It's just that the person who posted it was kind of telling people to go to other, less politically biased websites, and he was being mean to us. That's why.
That's cope, and that's bullshit, and they know it. What's the problem with Brits and other types of people speaking unbearably slow? I don't know. I know that Sargon doesn't do it anymore, but he used to have that as a problem too. What the fuck is woke right? No, dark woke. Dark woke, basically, remember the dark Brandon meme? The joke about Joe Biden standing up like he was doing an audition for Palpatine? People have decided to name the woke right and dark woke as examples of the left wing and the right wing being bullies. So, this woman, the one that I just talked about, so yes, he's not British. He's something else entirely. People just call him British because he speaks the same way that Sargon does. This woman right here that was doing the bullying against the male gender. This is what they consider dark woke to be, which is just the same fucking feminism, lightened, mean-spirited language that we've all been experiencing. They just put a word to something that we already see and probably have better names for anyways. They tried to conglomerize the idea of dark MAGA with dark woke. That's it. That's all you need to know there. Now, for as why he talks so goddamn slow. I think he does it on purpose now. Your guess is as good as mine, Horror. And yes, I will pin this if I have to. Arch from Norway. People just keep calling him British because he looks like it. It's gay stuff. Moving on. I paused to read the chat real quick. I remember the ring about cyberpunk mods to make Judy a romance option for male Vs. I would have never known that these mods existed without the bullshit. Now I have useless information I never wanted. Thank you, Twitter! I hope the UK gets itself together in the future. Otherwise, intruders they praise so much will take over Nexus and then they'll be out of a job. True. Moving forward.
You see, whilst this is a sensitive discussion around gender and identity, this very important conversation that we're not going to talk about on Nexus mods. No. Because
it's not an important conversation about sex and gender because it's a fucking video game. Why are we having an important conversation about sex and gender in a video game where people's most commonly reached for meme about Oblivion is fucking a flame atronach?
we are apolitical. This is, of course, a lie. How do you know that a progressive is lying? He's passing air over his vocal cords. It's pretty simple, honestly. As, of course, this drama from a few years ago is the example of it. So, there was a lot of pride flags in the Spider-Man remaster game, and a modder decided to not even, delete them, but replace them with the US flag texture instead. He uploaded this mod onto Nexus Mod, and they deleted it, stating that he was just fishing for drama. Nobody actually wants mods like this. Nobody actually desires these mods. Again, I remind you, 27.8 thousand downloads in this one. And they had to remove it. It had nothing to do with politics, you see. Even if you're left, right, up or down, Nexus mods don't care. Another lie again, as they also mentioned, in regards to the replacement of pride flags in this game, or any game, our policy is thus: we are for inclusivity, we are for diversity. If we think someone is uploading a mod on our site with the intent to deliberately be against inclusivity and or diversity, then we will take actions against it. As we've talked about with Trench Crusade recently, if you take an explicit stand in support of one political direction, you will necessarily be perceived as in opposition to the other side.
Because there is no such thing as being neutral on a moving train.
And in the case of progressivism, unavoidably so, as progressivism is practically, well, defined by its opposition to anything that isn't it. As is also further proofed by the fact that there are pride flag mods up on Nexus right now. Replace the pride flag, we ban you. Replace the American flag with progress pride flags, or straight up pride flags, and we keep you around. And notice something here. These mods have been up for years and years, since 18th of August 2022. 495 downloads. The Progress Pride flag, 16th of August 2022, 920 downloads. Compared again to 27.8k for the body type selector in 3 days.
Arch, I'm going to put you on double time if you do not get to the goddamn point.
We are the majority. That is just...
It was real that it was controversy about 3 to 4 years ago? Yes. And people continue to memory hold the fact that that mod was not a mod to replace the flags. It was a mod to simply turn on the developer setting that existed for the Saudi Arabian and United States Emiratis. Double time him.
There's simply no debate around that question anymore. It has been proven without a shadow of the doubt. We are far more numerically strong, and we are far more invested in these hobbies, as yet again, the left is unable to move the needle. A mod specifically designed to cater to your fetish fantasies? Nobody bothers, because there just aren't that many crazy wookers in the world. A mod that, in effect, depoliticizes the game? 27.8 thousand. It is indisputable at this point. So, why then did...
I mean, it's more to do with the fact that it's a self-generating Barbara Streisand moment. It's not that people are supporting it because, yeah, I can finally ungame my game. It's, hey, this is the mod that everybody's talking about where you guys were getting ass mad that you were being insulted on the internet, lol. That's what it was.
Did Nexus Mod put this out? That's the interesting part. Because now we get to my favorite subject of seizing things, or taking things. Something the left is incredibly good at.
Yes, he does, Boster. Finally, somebody used the word yap correctly! Yay!
Instinctually so, because make no mistake, this has nothing to do with any ethical standard upheld by the Nexus Mod team. You are more likely to find a family of bovine creatures with a functional understanding of, well, astrophysics, than you are to find a leftist with a consistent sense of right and wrong. The only standard they have ever adhered to, and will ever adhere to, is the double standard, which is exactly what this is. I've been talking about this in the seizing things thing. How, even if we are in the ascendance right now, that does not mean that we are the absolute majority. We are the 3%, maybe, contra our opponents 1 or 2%. But we are still arguing over the overwhelming majority of normies who have no idea what is going on. And this overwhelming majority will look at the events happening in the rest of the world, and if they see what they perceive to be injustice carried out against a certain group, it will react very hostile towards the group carrying out the injustice. That is how we are currently beating the progressives, because we are unironically the victims of their aggression.
Yeah, but you're also incapable of really explaining what the fuck is happening here. And your vocal flourishes make it impossible for people to keep up. Carl looked over at the camera, and he leaned forward and started pointing his finger at horror. And the problem is that you spend so much time not being able to define the problem and show examples of it happening, that you even remove the reference to what it is you're talking about, and make yourself into a disembodied floating head. And as a talking head, Arch, that doesn't help people understand the issue. You know what does help them understand? Here's a look at this photograph. This man called me a cuck, 'cause I wanna bang the dark elf, bro. That's what people can connect to. Gotta shut up, man. Get closer to the point, Carl said while staring into the camera looking directly at horror. Why are you looking at horror, Carl? Because I'm aware of the irony.
While if we start acting like idiots and calling things woke or unplayable, or we gotta boycott things, when there isn't a problem that the normies can detect, we look like the idiots attacking the left. This is the left learning that lesson in record time. As Nexus Mod is looking around at an ever-increasing number of competitors, and one of probably the largest moddable games to have come out in years, and thinking immediately, how do we seize ground? How do we begin to lay claim to oblivion? How can we declare it ours? Okay, well, we have a thing here that indicates very clearly that the developers are on our side. Body type 1, body type 2. That is a declaration from the developers. They are for left-wing politics. They take that and go, okay, that's us, that's our game. This is a left-wing game now, and then they try to ban the mod that turns into male-female, as they always does. However, the backlash is too high. It is too strident. It is too quick. This is too large of a battleground. It's too dangerous. It is exposing them to too much bad PR. Instant back down. The progressives' biggest strength, yet again, is the ability to seize terrain. And
He's just not effective with his words. He doesn't follow the ABC's communication muster. It's why most of the time, whenever I see something that is from Arch that I'd look into, I just go find the original source myself. Because it's hard. I agree. I get bored by his bloviating. Carl again stared into the cameras, pointing his finger at horror.
to have an almost preternatural understanding of when the tides are turning against them so they can huddle up and cry victim, which is what this is.
I would say that it's not a preternatural standard of knowing when the tides turn against them and knowing when they cry victim. All leftists, if we want to go with the Brickman philosophy, all leftists are lying whenever they are speaking. Leftist meaning shitlib. Leftist, I will convince you that you are hurting me in the same breath I'm trying to stab you with this knife type leftist. All inherent evil people know that they are doing something that is a problem that provides nothing but a benefit for themselves at the detriment of other people. See full writ the woman that we just discussed. Putting on the screen real quick as an example. This woman knows that she just wanted to insult men. Her thread was not about men's standards and thinking that men deserve to be lonely. She just wanted to bash men. Now, imagine this woman is a woman who's playing Oblivion Remastered. And she is arguing against people like me as a stand-in for all the people she hates. She knows when she can't win. She knows when and where she can get away with what she can get away with. It is not about convincing me. It's not even about convincing you. It's about making her feel that she's right in the moment. Most people who are like that don't have a preternatural understanding because most of them are autistic. Unfortunately. High functioning. They know that they can't get away with a specific need to filter things in their optics of control the way that they want. So instead what they do is they use whatever parameter of control allows them to get what they want without having to be directly overt about the gloved velvet fist hiding the iron fist. So, they know when they're losing an argument. And they know when to abandon ground when the ground is too much salted and poisoned. They will only give up when they know that is the case. In any other case, whether it means stepping over your broken body, whether it means stepping over your salted ground and raised earth, whether it means ransacking and then destroying and then replacing and gentrifying what originally was a deep ethnic culture inherent to those that lived it, they were more than happy to lie to you because it's nothing more than friend-enemy distinction. Do you agree with me? Then you're allowed to live, but you live under my privilege and at my honor. Since I have no honor, you are as good as I can throw you in the moment. Men, you're slaves. You don't do what I want, you're a slave and you deserve to die alone without ever having a child. You don't deserve fatherhood. You don't deserve love. You don't deserve affection. You don't even deserve to come. Give me your balls. You're a eunuch now. Hence, defective robots. You agree with me? And you're also a woman? Sisterhood! You agree with me, but you're a man, but you know your place? Yes, you're a good boy. You'll be rewarded with 2 Litkuses tonight. You give them a lot more humanity than they deserve. A lot more humanity than they deserve, Arch. That's if you believe in the brick viewpoint, of course.
I do not believe for a second, again, that this is a standard that they will maintain. Not at all. The next time there's a mod that removes something the woke is like, it too will be banned, as nobody will be paying attention. This is simply yet another demonstration.
Well, that's not necessarily true, because everybody's paying attention. I pay attention. If nobody else notices it, I'm going to notice it, because I'm a prime noticer.
That the left knows how this game is played very, very well. And again, this is a victory too. Don't get me wrong. Don't get us to be blackmailed by this. This is a win for us, and a big one in the public-facing scenario, in the arena of public discourse and public opinion. This is our victory. But pay attention to our enemy and how quickly they are evolving. The left lost its cultural edge because it thought we were idiots, that we were unable to learn the lessons that they taught us again and again. Brutality and abuse. They are effective measures once carried out in the dark of censorship and with platforms' permissions. We learned that lesson. Let us not now make the same mistake as the left did and not understand that our enemies, they're not beaten yet. They're not defeated, and they don't give up easy. So, save the victory, but also...
I mean, that's not the lesson you should walk away with at all. You should walk away with the lesson of, wow, this is really stupid and really gay, and all those people who tried to do that shit are really stupid and really dumb. Because that's the wrong lesson to take. The reason why the left, air quote, TM, trade snark, the reason why the left lost their power is because they were spending so much time trying to control people that they believed that the enemy was critically illiterate. Not just evil, but stupid and dumb. They believed they had a technological and a superiority example from intellect. Then they were reminded that they were outnumbered. It was just that there were more people who were choosing not to speak and abstaining than those getting involved. So, in choosing to get involved, they woke those people up by doing something even more annoying and insensuous to discontent, which was, for some people, an election. For some people, a video game. For some people, realizing that their friend is not their friend, and that their performative standard is the only way that they are allowed access. And the moment that they stopped performing is the moment that they lost that access. And then, after being reminded that they are monsters, they are garbage humans, they are deplorables, they are racist, sexist chuds, they are incels deserving to be lonely, people fought back. And then they had to realize, oh shit, there's actually a lot of you. Well, you guys are stupid. And to his credit, talking heads like Empty Signifier said, actually, there are intelligent people there in that bunch. It's unfortunate that we can't convert them into people like us. Make them think and believe as we do. But they're not stupid. You just don't see the savants of their group. And the savants of the group started winning and beating that ass. 6 ways till Sunday. What they're now realizing is that the way to win in this situation, as well as all future situations, is that the more that you decide to give attention to people like myself, or Heels vs. Babyface, or even to his credit, Arch, the more you lose. Haha, look at this incel. Isn't his argument stupid? Is my argument fully there, unfiltered, fully seen for what it is and not clip-chimped? Play it and show it, and then show as many people as you can without them being given a presser about how much I'm an incel or how I hate women. Then put it directly next to a picture of me and my woman. And or our child. Surprisingly, people won't agree with you. Weird. Why is that? The Prime Noticing makes it very clear that, oh, they're just bullies. And when you start revealing that, oh, you're bullies, you're just choosing easy targets that you think are acceptable because you're just bullies. Well, his argument was dumb. Yeah, but didn't they do that thing with Starfield? And didn't you guys play that game and then move the fuck on? Well, it was really stupid. Well, he's still right, it seems. That's what they're not figuring out yet. They haven't figured out exactly how to deal with the problem of being perceived. Because their first answer was, we're going to abandon Twitter. And what they realized is, oh shit, we left the only platform where we had power and control. Assuming that we weren't in the timeline where Elon Musk bought the shit. So they don't have virality, they don't have reach, they don't have the control levers to censor people, they don't have the ability to back up that censorship with popularity and shaming tactics. It means that the only way for them to be able to win their arguments and also to gain ground is to decide when to attack people. So, the lesson to come away with is not, well, you can't treat your enemies and think that they're defeated. No, we don't. I don't know what the fuck makes you think that everybody on the internet is a fucking Republican rhino. They are more than happy to go forward. Because the correct result when you're dealing with a force that is attacking you in the form of total war is extermination. Now me, I just believe in the advancement of of an alternative culture. So instead of segregation but black people, I think segregation but people not like the person who wrote the article or who wrote the post. A world removed from the dark woke. They can live in the old dilapidated world, and when they go to see if the grass is greener on the other side, I burn them with a flamethrower. Metaphorically speaking. A wink. Because it's a better choice than constantly attacking them. I'm not interested in the war. I'm interested in peace. But peace in our time has to come with a piece of steel in my hand to defend myself and my own. Because that's exactly what you would have to do, by any means necessary. Because it's total war. You said that you don't need us. You said you don't need our money. You said you don't have to sell to us. You don't have to make things for us. We don't have to be your customers. Well, I don't have to be your customer. I can go do something else. But not the Western scene. Okay, that's fine. I'll go to the Japanese. Actually, we're going to cantankerously corrupt the Japanese. Okay, I'm going to go to the AA. The AA are on our side, sweaty? Okay, I'm going to go to the indie. The indies are on our side, sweaty? Okay, I'll make my own game. We're going to ban you from making games. Okay, I'm going to mod the games I already have. You can't mod! That's not allowed! Okay, go fuck you. I'm going to go do something else entirely. And I'm going to go do it over here where you can't see me. Man, that's really cool that we were finally able to beat all these chuds. Now it's a nice, safe, and incentivized space. Hey, what's going on over there? What's that shiny city dome in the distance? Oh my god, the chuds built a Firelight Society! That's not allowed! You can't do that! You cross this line, I'm shooting you in the face. Metaphorically speaking. That is where it's going. Right now, we're at the you can't mod, why did you mod? The correct answer to tell them at this point, Arch, is to tell them, pay attention to your enemies and do not let up. You don't need to punch them, you don't need to kick them, you don't need to scratch them, you don't need to bite them. Just mock them. Incessantly. Mock them incessantly. Because, yes, the Sam Hyde quote. Thank you, Ace. But more importantly, you're gonna get tired of winning. Simply because all you ever had to do was take their words and say, hey, oh guys, this is what he thinks about black people. Take their tactics, take their nose, like my finger in this frosting, in the shit. Turn the face in a little bit. Make sure it gets on them. Make sure they stick back like this. And then put their face in the mirror and tell them, you see this? This is you. If you keep doing this, this is what we're finna do to you. Because this is what you did to us. But where's your humanity? I don't know, bitch. What was yours? Back in the shit! And then just doing that multiple times. Pulling a little bit more on your finger every time. And you keep doing it, 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 until you breed and or punish the reaction to do it out of them. And then you never let them have power in society again. And that's how you win. Because we all know what happens when you do this. So we're going to teach them, this is why we don't do this anymore. Because the only other option is the option that we can't say, which is execution. That's the honest answer. So, in lieu of telling people to commit a crime, have better arguments, and know how the enemy thinks so they cannot lie to you to try and gain ground again.
But bear in mind why this happened and why it might happen again. And why this isn't going to happen always, mind you. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.
5 minutes to spare. Next one. This one is long, because this one is a screen cap of Jello Apocalypse mauling on the timeline. Okay. So. Yes, brother, this guy again, Saffronet. How does Jello Apocalypse still have an audience? Because they turned tail and ran. When the shit got shitting for them, they turned tail and ran. There you go. Look, I know it's cool to hate on me now because we decided that the STIB series sucked actually, but the stuff that I've been making for the past 5 years has been so wildly different and better, specifically referring to Epitaph Erased. It's not my fault that YouTube stopped recommending me to you when I started making good things. In response to someone randomly talking about something else on the who's a YouTuber who used to make good stuff and then they fell off. But you made another SITB this year. I made that video because my friend needed a job, so I paid him $8,000 across 2024 for the illustration work. The SITB video made like $400 in 5 months. I do not do YouTube for profit. My money comes from Patreon. If I did stuff for views, I would have spent 2 years editing a niche video about the graphic design of anime opening that I knew would only get like 100k views tops. I also do comic dubs and lyric videos for songs that get up to 30k views. But no one talks about those! So they're just openly being upset about not having more clicks and more views. The trap of popularity, kids. Never fall for it. The SITV videos are rage bait, not Riri. Half of them barely have any critiques. The Hero Aka, the FE, the Ace Attorney, Kingdom Hearts, Persona 5, and Trails videos are all written with a purely mild voice. And it's absolutely not because I think those things are perfect. Also, let's not pretend that I'm trying to do rage bait videos that maximize views, when for years the penultimate SITB was Trails of Cold Steel. Almost nobody knows what Trails is. I did that one because my boyfriend was really into it and I thought it'd be fun. The One Piece video got an insane amount of negative press. The first 48 hours post-upload were mostly a normal response, actually, but then it got shadow banned. The video wouldn't come up when I searched for it by name, and I was the original uploader. I've never seen that before. You know what did come up in those search? Lots and lots of negative reaction videos. You mean you had a bad take and people had an opinion and they talked about it and you couldn't block them from talking? Oh, brother! So the way most people learned about the video existing in the first place was by seeing those videos. They'd watch those, form an opinion, and then go over and leave a mad comment on the original. That's bullshit, because why would they just watch those opinion of somebody else instead of coming to their own opinion, and then trying to find other people who can be able to help them understand the feelings that they can't ascribe words towards? It's why I choose to watch things the way that I do. The only time in which I choose to have somebody else's opinion on something is if the opinion can get to the nitty-gritty of the meat faster than I can get to the meat and potatoes. Because by having to go through and chop your things apart, I have ruined my first reaction of what you have to say. So, the opinion that I would have come to if I had seen it on my own in isolation from the internet and their opinions is soured by the opinions of the people who are talking. Which is very, very manipulative of my viewpoint for myself. My opinion changes based on the people who are talking. Because a shitlib talking about something that I care about usually are doing so to try to get me involved in something. But something that is brought up by a person who I know, who I have some kind of familiarity towards, and I can trust their opinion, if they say that they dislike something that most people would like, I'd want to ask them, why do they feel like that? And that opinion would influence my opinion the same way that person's opinion would influence my opinion. Because I always know that I hate the kind of people who play the games that I play. Not because I am myself the type of person who plays the game that I play, but because the people who play my game are wrong. Because they do so from an opinion that is justified by their own personal beliefs, not about something that is actually physically there that they want to discuss. And instead of telling the truth about what they actually think, they describe and ascribe the problem to something else entirely. So, Brendan here is ascribing that the reason people disagreed with his video about One Piece was not because he went out of his mouth to detrimentally talk shit about a franchise that he would rather skim his way through and not care about, and had precognitive opinions about. But specifically, they just hated it because they were told they had to hate it. It's not really their opinion. That's a good opinion you got. What YouTuber did you get it from? You nigga! Moving on. That caused a snowball effect where the reaction videos were getting shared more than the original, and a lot of them just made shit up. Did you make shit up? I think you made shit up. So the shit that they made up is actually the reaction they had to you lying to their faces. Cope and see. I've seen people saying the video is racist, transphobic, etc., and dozens of replies going, vid sucks. Why? Oh, IDK, I didn't watch it. So instead of dismissing the opinions of the people who can't tell you the reasons why they don't like what you have to say because they didn't watch it, you're instead obsessing over them. That's crazy. This is wild to me because the video was not inaccessible. It was available for free. It was available for free and was 7 minutes long. This is not a complicated news topic. You need someone to summarize for you. You just go and watch the video, question mark? This is probably the most salient take that he's going to have the entire rant. Yes. Instead of asking somebody else to give you a dissertation that breaks down a 7-minute video over 30 minutes, you could just watch the video and see if you can come away with your own assertions and your own assumptions and your own understandings without having your favorite YouTuber break it down for you. And of course, during all of this, anyone who harbored a vague dislike of something that I made since 2017 gets to say, see, I knew it, I knew it, I knew he sucked, I was right! Even though their opinion is based on something from a fucking decade ago. I can still get messages that are like this. Has your opinion on Adventure Time changed at all? I'd really like to stop hating you forever. Not really. Crunchyroll forced me to cover it along with 3 other shows selected by them as part of a sponsorship pack, even though I told them I didn't like it and wasn't interested. It was either that or Bee and Puppy Cat, which I was even less interested in. I binged 5 seasons, did not like it at all, and have not re-engaged with it because I did not like it at all. Unrelated, have you considered that forming an opinion about someone exclusively based on how they feel about a cartoon for tweens is weird? Here's the thing, Jello Apocalypse. You are part of a group of people who decided that that was the way to engage in behavior. And you go to the kitchen and throw this in the trash. You decided that that was the acceptable engagement cycle and behavior and opinion that could be used. At no time were people considered to be acceptable for simply talking about things and citing, you know what? Even though Steven Universe is quite literally made for kids, I think that it's weird that you have adults that are putting a lot of their viewpoints and a lot of their opinions and a lot of their energy into shit that otherwise would not be important. And I think that their need to vicariously live through this show, and even, in Rebecca Schroeder's case, although more sensible for her, want to make this as a dedication to her brother is strange. Because it feels like instead of trying to make a dedication that is comparative to her brother and how she views him growing up, thus making her brother look like he is a magical boy, and in the result, fucking up the fucking voice actor of the show by getting him stuck on gender politics, it appears like you're trying to litigate your emotional concerns to an entire generation of children who do not care for it, and it's being picked up by people who can see that you have a social aggregate of opinions that if they don't like the show, they must be a racist, bigot, sexist Nazi. And when they believe differently than you believe, it must be because of the Nazi thing. Not because you people are disaffected liberals that are stuck as tweens mentally for the past 10 years. Right back. I have returned. And I'm 1% blacker. Continuing. Okay, not to be beleaguer the point, but I just checked and that video came out 9 years ago. 9 years! I've even seen people saying shit like, I sent death threats to the creator of One Piece, which no, I did not watch the video. It's 7 minutes long. Don't get your opinions from reaction videos. I did receive death threats for it, though. Dozens of them. So, you know. If you get mad when someone pokes fun at a thing you like, that's fine, I guess, but let's not pretend this is actually any deeper than that. These series are a drunken guide voicely, badly accounting basically what a series is. That's the premise. It's not that serious. If the case basis is that you must basically be recounting something and badly recounting it and it's supposed to be funny and cute, then it wouldn't be projected from a left-wing viewpoint where this is how they feel about it. Most of your content has become a litigation of the left wing's opinion about something. And unfortunately, because you went out of your way to destroy an anime because you didn't like it, you thought it was dumb, and therefore it deserves to be translated poorly by you, we don't believe you. They don't believe you, and I don't believe you. for what it's worth, I do actually pride myself on the research I do for these videos, despite people claiming I do the opposite. Okay, so here's the problem with that, Brennan. You know how you just said it's a guy drunkenly voicing and badly recounting things? That's what it is. That's the premise. But I do research. If you do research and then you lie about something that you should have known if you researched it, and then you present this in your video as though it is fact because you researched it, and then they criticize you on their reaction takes and think you are wrong, directly referencing the thing that you said and what is actually true, then you don't get to whine. You're whining now. You're whining that people said you're stupid and wrong. You take pride in something that you're wrong about. How does that make sense? Oh, I accidentally clicked. I try really hard to consume as much of a topic as I can before doing a video on it. I read all the JoJo mangas before that video. I've played every Ace Attorney game, etc. I probably have spent more time with OP than any other series, One Piece, than any other series, and Stib, actually. It used to be my favorite manga, so it's 2014. I read all of it twice, watched over 300 plus episodes of the anime, watched the live action version, watched all the movies, and I've been a fan since 4Kids days. For what it's worth, I do think I can make a long and thorough video with citations defending every gag that was made inside of So Basically This Is. But I won't. I don't want to do another 3 weeks of making that, and clearly people don't want to spend an hour watching it. A lot of them refuse to spend 7 minutes on me. I don't think it was a rejection of spending 7 minutes on you. It was a rejection of spending any time attempting to analyze what is clearly made out of a position of hate and a position of internal antagonization on a genre. They know that you're the guy who was trying to shit up anime. So why would they want to take 7 minutes out on you when you clearly hate anime? Which, you could say, well, yes, you're right. They don't want to waste time with you because you hate anime. I would say, no, I spent time watching it. I watched it on air. However, they don't want to think about you any further past that. Your 7-minute contribution has now created endless content for other people to consume. For each person who made a piece from your work, that 7 minutes was transformed into a more entertaining work than your 7 minutes of effort. So they do not want to engage any further with your 7 minutes of effort. But they will engage with someone's dissertation of your 7 minutes of work. So they don't want any more ideas or thoughts or discussions or contributions from you. Because they don't like you or your thoughts or your opinions or your works. Because whether they knew that you were the discotheque guy or not is irrelevant. Your work was bad. They got a vibe. The vibe was off. Because the frontal was off, they went someone else. And now they're listening to someone tell them why they had that feeling. And you're mad that they had the choice to not listen to you. By all means, don't spend time making the product. But don't lie and call it something it's not. Because you haven't even addressed the fact what you did with Discotheque. That's why we know it's lying. Lots of people hate my takes and stuff, which is weird, because Stibs aren't even reviews. They're Newgrounds parodies. They're goofy and they're short. My jokes are acceptable. My takes are fine because they're parodies. You shouldn't take them seriously. But you should also take my work seriously. Why won't you take my jokes seriously? They're jokes. Take my jokes seriously. Think you can interpret my take from a stib as like interpreting someone's full opinion on a single tweet. Ah! That's a lie. Now you're falling foul of the problem of comedians. If I write a joke, if I make a joke, if I present something humorously, while you cannot understand and immediately glean my opinion on the spot, the assumption that you have to make is that the setup and the punchline comes from an inspiration that I had to observe. If you then say, as he goes on to say, I don't think my stibs have ever been a good measuring stick for my thoughts on something. The Ruby stib was absolutely savage. Easily the meanest video. But you then say, thinking you can interpret my take from Stib is like interpreting someone's full opinions in a single tweet. It's not a single tweet. If I go to look at his timeline right now, that's 5 minutes and 58 seconds of what you described yourself is literally a drunken person recapping something unseriously. If in that time you chose to cover it, and if at that time you chose to be annoying about it, decided that your research is good enough for what is effectively 6 minutes of work, but you yourself say that it's clearly the meanest. If it's just jokes, why are the jokes mean? Who are you being mean-spirited to? The creator? The dead creator Monty Ohm? The fans? The fans of the dead creator Monty Ohm? Who are tired of seeing his work be raked into the ground by by Rooster Teeth, which has now gone the way to the dodo, but potentially has now returned from the grave? Why is it mean? Why do you use the word mean to describe it? I thought you do a lot of research. If these are just the facts, because research is when you find things out to be able to communicate them effectively. If this is something that you did work to study, why are you presenting it mean? Shouldn't it be comedic and humorous? Isn't the point to entertain? That's what I'm saying. The original founders of Rooster Teeth bought the rights back, so it's returning from the grave because of corporate restructuring. In terms of the content, most people don't like RWBY as it currently is right now because they had to do a lot to try to change things to go their way narratively because the company was mostly owned by leftists and they did not like how RWBY was before and tried to change it into something differently. But that's besides the point. If you made the work and you did the research to do the work, shouldn't your job be then being humorous? Shouldn't your job not to be mean-spirited, meaning that you're pushing your jokes in the direction of one fucking way, but instead that everybody gets hit? I mean, that's how comedy's supposed to best work. It's a bomb. Everybody gets caught in the explosion. If you are singling out a particular kind of person to the point where the jokes are mean-spirited, it means you had a particular viewpoint and a particular angle and a particular target in mind. Whether or not you're doing it towards the work, which then becomes a criticism of the writing, or you're doing it towards the people who are fans of the work, which then becomes a criticism of you and how you view the work, I can, in fact, if given enough time, research, effort, and examples, figure out exactly why you have your take. That's something that anybody can do. Watch my stream long enough, you'll come to know my opinion about a lot of things. But does that mean that my opinion like that has always been that way? No. My opinion's changed multiple times. To know what my current opinion is, you'd have to ask me in the moment. But unlike the Bayonetta superposition, usually my take doesn't change that much. If anything, I take a new information and I add it to that already based assumption. And then once that assumption has enough definition that I can put a word to it, or I can describe it with something that I can point to, or something that I can physically define in my Obsidian notes, then it's something that I don't just think this because I saw a video one time, or I saw a post one time, and I described it. It's because I took an analytical eye to the task, and I found examples to put into words the dynamics of the situation and of the occurrence that I'm witnessing happening. Because as a prime noticer, I saw patterns. The pattern recognition usually beats people's asses because they use it as a way to have a thought-terminating cliche. I figure it out, I put it in the box, I don't have to figure it out anymore. If you are upset that you're being judged and criticized because you now realize you're in that fucking box, then that's on you, bro. However, RWBY's an awful show. Let's be real, bro. RWBY's bad. The fact this shit got a fucking spinoff and or got collaboration deals with companies like Hi-Rez was because they knew they needed to get some clicks. The same reason they did a RWBY, and the same reason they did a VShojo, and the same reason they did a Nickelodeon collaboration and a RuneScape collaboration was to try to get people into their dying game. And just like that show, they couldn't be able to manage to get people to play their dying game, to the point that Hi-Rez was threatening people to ban them permanently if they didn't like the way they spoke to them as customer service. So for whatever reason you think people hate you, Jello Apocalypse, you're coping and you're seething. Even if you don't want to put a word on it, you don't want to admit what it is, you know that's bullfuck. You know it's bullfucked. So, let me finish reading. Let's start back at lots of people. Lots of people hate my takes on stuff, which is weird, because stibs aren't reviews. They're Newground parodies. They're goofy and they're short. Think you can interpret my take from a stib as like interpreting someone's full opinion in a single tweet. I don't think stibs should have ever been a good measuring stick for thoughts or something, because the Ruby stib is absolutely savage. Easily the meanest video. But I had way more fun engaging with Ruby's story than I did with Kingdom Hearts. And that Kingdom Hearts stib is one of the nicest ones that I've made. I would ask you what makes it nice and what makes it mean, and from there we can pretty much figure out what your opinions are and what you think about them. But whatever. Anyways, TLDR, people act like the stibs are the only thing I ever made and say, why don't you make something nice? And then when I do that for years, nobody watches it, and it's a little frustrating. So you're mad that people aren't watching your content. That's called coping, bro. Shout out to the person in the quote tweet for liking Epitaph Erased, though. And then, he gets fucking savaged! With like maybe one person supporting him. Bro, we're not reading all that. You're a weirdly pretentious prick on your main, and you're notoriously difficult to work with because you let your ego get in the way. People can pick up on those vibes even through a video script. So just not gonna acknowledge the anime dub you derailed where you disrespected the author because you didn't like it? Got that shit? Like, got it, shit sniffer? You also said that Infinity Train deserved to get cancelled. Bro's coping on main. One person, dang, sorry you had to go through all that toxidation. I enjoy your work, honestly. Meanwhile, back to the roasting. Bro crashed out over one tweet. I'm dead! Reminds me a little bit how Joe Cat stuff got reduced to the one song parody he did when he got her getting harassed online. Except that now it's not the one parody he did. It's his reaction to being involved as a content creator, getting collabs as a content creator, and deciding to remove himself from a company and try to remove all association because people are angry at the Mad Fox woman. Yes, clearly he was being forced. He was being mind controlled to type all those words about Kirsch. There's no other reason. And if there is a explanation that someone can offer, nobody offers it at the time that they explained it. So it just looks like he's mad at a person because they dared to do business. I re-listen to Prison of Plastic once a year because even though I know the story is so good, I listen to it again. I always thought that the stibs were obvious exaggerated, but I only seen it to be treated as dead serious by people online. No idea why. I don't know. Maybe for the same reason these two people expressed this opinion here. And then, the Mao, this ugly ass shit's what you're most proud of? Man, how did you get ruined so hard? This is a thread of Jello Apocalypse being very pissed off that the hard effort creative work that he wanted to make, what he is most proud of, his own creation, does not get liked or watched or viewed as much as stuff that he wished he doesn't get flack for and hate for. And instead of saying, I would be happy if more people watched my original content, instead of assuming my identity and opinion about this one thing I do, also chose to ignore the fact that he's done all of these things that he's getting called out for in this comment section. And that, therefore, people do not want to give him attention, and they do not want to give him association, because he will use it the same way that woman complaining about men helping women in New York would act with people. He won't appreciate it, and he won't like it. And it's fucking stupid as hell. Fucking stupid as hell. And because he won't take accountability, he sadly has brought it on himself. Tush shits, you say! In truth, the thing you should walk away from this situation with is that he's responsible for the crimes he did to himself. And because he's responsible for the crimes he did to himself, he has to be accountable for what he's done in that degree to bring this reaction. Because certainly there are people who are going to hate him, no matter what. There are people who are going to hate him because of the things he's actually done, that he's not taking accountability for, which is the camp I'm in. And then there are people who are going to dislike him and his behavior, and they're going to criticize him, but still appreciate the stuff that he makes. All three of these camps have no reason to give you attention if you're going to basically shit on people and complain in the very mealy-mouthed way, in that Lindsay Ellis style. How dare you criticize me for my opinion? Because the exact same thing fucking happened to her about Raya and the Last Dragon. And that's wild! Now, of course, her reaction was seen by millions of people, which is why she became a Nebula chick and retreated from YouTube. But bro, he crashed out on Twitter over one guy's reply! How mad are you? Oh, dude. Dude, you're crashing out online, dude. You're not supposed to do that. You got one guy. Oh! Truly a travesty. However, as we come to the close and we have the last topic I wanted to talk about, I apologize, but I'm going to make you have to listen to an Endymion video. I have to do it. I have to do it. I'm sorry. I have to do it. It's for the good of all people. It's for the good of all people. It's a take that has to be referred to. Endymion. Endymion TV. I'm making you listen to an Endymion TV video as I react to it. The music cuts out as Carl puts on the show. No, Carl, don't do it. No, don't make me listen to the Grifter's opinions. We have to listen. I have to criticize it. I have to insult him. No, Carl, no. Please, no. No. On with the shits.
Player Obscure Expedition 33 shouldn't even exist, yet based on it recently coming out and taking the industry by storm, it seems like what this game is, and what it represents, is everything the mega publishers who control everything don't really want to exist in video games today. And yet everyone seems to be playing it, and I'm currently about 8 or 9 hours into the experience myself, and yeah, it's special, let me tell you. But what I've noticed about this game is that the upbringing and creation of Clair Obscur has done what some might deem impossible in today's gaming landscape. Cause Clair Obscur isn't just a great game, it's an embarrassment when you compare it to what the industry's been pushing for years. You can call it a wake-up call, exposing, whatever you want to make it sound more convincing, but Clair Obscur just shamed the industry with its existence in the best way possible.
We'll take that as a compliment, thank you! Jacques! This is the house that Jacques built. It took 30 French people to give you a Western JRPG worth a damn. That does exactly what most of the other ones did, but did them right. And brought every single fucking world together. Brought the puzzle people together. Brought the real-time action Final Fantasy people together. Brought all of the Dark Souls people in with the mechanics. Brought in and brought back all the things we were hoping for. Mod. Completely French victory. And all the other jokes. As I've said, we will take our victory in the form of no derogatory French jokes for a month. Now, with that being said, we finna hang this motherfucker in the Bastille.
To give you the basic setup without any real spoilers, the game is about a group of people sent out on an expedition to face some being that is named the Paintress. I'm not really sure yet who the Paintress is since I haven't met her in-game yet.
I'm not really sure who the Paintress is, even though I haven't met her in-game yet. Steam store, 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 Steam store. Lead the members of Expedition 33 on their quest to destroy the Paintress so she can never paint death again. I don't know who the objective goal and protagonist that we are exploring for is. I don't know who that is. What's the context? Bro, I played the video game. I don't know who she is. What's this content that you're talking about? What? It's not like I'm playing sections from the game's story that displays who it is and what she wants, like the sections from the prologue with Gustav and Sophie. Why? Why, Bay, have you? I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, single player Carl. I'm just showing sections and comments that are in the first fucking chapter. Never you mind who this person is and what their importance is. You just need to know that I thought an opinion, chat. That's it. You can paint it as a victory or whatever. I can't tell you about the story of the game that I've been playing for 8 hours. I didn't pay attention to a single cutscene. There might actually even be a chance that he might have clicked through it. He might have tried to skip through the cutscenes because he wanted to get to the action faster. If that's the case, that's really embarrassing. Moving on.
But some might deem impossible in today's gaming landscape. Cause Clair Obscur isn't just a great game, it's an embarrassment when you compare it to what the industry's been pushing.
I mean, like, I don't know, bro. I don't know, man. Like, I don't think it's the same thing as saying I don't know who she is at all, let alone what her purpose is, as saying I don't know what she is. Maybe he wants to say the deeper mystery of what she is and what she's doing and what's going on. But you can give a glossary summary of what's in the beginning of the fucking game. Because you were shown the context. You can explain it based on what he's making for. But of course, that's not the purpose of what he's making this video for, Balster. Carl, you can't do this to me, Carl. Hating frogs is part of my culture. I would never call you one of the good ones because you're black. I'm not racist, but damn right I say it because you're French. But yeah, he's not saying that because he's trying to truly elucidate, I don't know what the deeper mystery of the Paintress is. He's saying it because he wants to bitch about Clair Obscur, because he's been bitching online about Clair Obscur, because he's been bitching between people like Nuru about the game, and he's been getting mad enough that he deleted his comments about what he talked about. And yes, at least he's honest.
For years. You can call it a wake-up call, exposing, whatever you want to make it sound more convincing, but Clair Obscur just shamed the industry with its existence in the best way possible. To give you the basic setup without any real spoilers, the game is about a group of people sent out on an expedition to face some being that is named the Paintress. I'm not really sure yet who the Paintress is since I haven't met her in-game yet, but the idea is that this world that you're in is hinging on collapsing due to how many people are dying that are trying to stop this apocalypse from happening pretty much.
No? What? How do you even come away with that as a basic summary of the game? Every time she draws a number, they gommage, they die, and disappear when they are of the age that is on the obelisk. They keep sending out expeditions because eventually it'll get to the point that there is nobody alive that could stop her. Therefore, the world as they know it is coming to an end slowly every year. And every year, they send out an expedition of people that have a single year remaining to do with that year what they need to stop the next expedition from being necessary. So, what the fuck makes you say that as the summary? Acts like you're not even paying attention to the prologue. The very clear setup, the very clear hallway that took you from one end to the other with all these people wearing the white and red bouquets. Because it was their day of gomage. They were going to disappear and die. The very traumatic and intimate scene, voiced by Charlie Cox, but I'm playing on French, where these people disappear into dust. Or something.
And the game starts off with this beautiful farewell ceremony as loved ones say goodbye and depart to face this godlike being that keeps inching closer to their obliteration. And you play as...
So, How is it that you missed the point of the Gamage, but then you try to summarize the expedition launch scene? Questions. I wonder if Ademion did a lot of research to his videos, guys. I wonder if he's like Jello Apocalypse.
Gustav, who looks like Robert Pattinson, kind of, and
Everybody's pretty much came away with this understanding. I think it's a running joke that we're now trying to figure out exactly how much could they make Gustav look like Robert Pattinson, despite him being voiced by Charlie Cox, without it becoming a legal liability for using his likeness. It's just really fucking uncanny, dude. I don't know what else to say. They made him look like Robert Pattinson. I said it. Nuru said it. Other content creators said it.
I didn't know this, but he's voiced by Charlie Cox. Yeah, the MCU's Daredevil is the main character guy here, which...
No, I have not finished it yet. I have gotten to the end of the section of Flying Waters. I intend on playing it more, but I need to balance out and finish playing Ratchet & Clank 2 and Ratchet & Clank 3 and Ratchet & Clank 4 so that I can fully dig my teeth into Expedition 33. I don't want to have another instance of Ni no Kuni again.
is a cool surprise, I gotta say. But what I love about Clair Obscur so far is despite it being a Western game, it smartfully hasn't made any of its characters feel insufferable or tied down to any stupid ideologies that exist in our real world.
Yeah, and that's the thing that makes it a total Jacques victory. They made a Western RPG that has none of the bad quirks of a lazy industry that doesn't want to truly do a proper game and is not just painting by the numbers. They took their time and they made something passionate that is very deeply rooted, at least in French sentimentality and French culture, while still being anachronistic enough that you can get into the world and be of the world. I passed you, wow, because I haven't been able to play anything else. I took time off. If I sat down today after I finished the back end of Ratchet & Clank 2, I will be ahead of you by 5 days. I want to enjoy the video game, and I don't want to be rushed to make content.
I haven't heard or seen anything dumb or condescending in this game yet. This game's world, which is clearly inspired by French architecture, music, and more. I mean, the development team Sandfall Interactive is French after all, but despite it having this connection, the world just feels wholly unique, otherworldly, and at times, alien even. I have a good feeling I know what the Paintress really is, but I don't want to say my theory because it might be a spoiler, but let's just say this game's world and its mythology, it's captivating, and it's instantly interesting, and it all just kind of pulls you in. The game also works as a turn-based battle system, which may turn people off, but hear me out first. Look, I've played hundreds of turn-based games. I'm a veteran of Final Fantasy and more, and I gotta say that the battle system on offer here is easily one of the best turn-based systems there's ever been in a video game so far. You don't just click X and then watch. Well, the basic attack is that, sure, but every ability or skill has timed button presses that you click at certain times, and
Bro, the simplicity of saying it's Mario and Luigi is so important. Because you're over-explaining the combat system and making it sound more complex than it is. Each character has a different archetype and a different weapon schema. And it is just the Mario and Luigi timed attack system.
And this then leads to the attacks gaining power. You must also time button presses even when using healing spells too, beyond the time button presses, which feels a lot like Legend of Dragoon's Edition system, which, man,
that's the same thing I said.
That's a throwback, but Legend of Dragoon was one of my favorite JRPGs growing up. I still pour a little bit...
He likes the same video game that I liked. Clearly what I should do here, as a person who hates the left, is that I should abandon my standards and allow him to declare himself as the one and only true fan. But considering I have a brain, I'm not going to do that.
Out for my guy Lavitz, and that game's battle system was...
He mentioned my nigga Lavitz! To this day! To this day!
way ahead of its time too. And Clair Obscur, that feels like a modernized, reimagined, and evolved version of what Legend of Dragoon was doing back in...
Hey, let's not say that now. There's more than Legend of Dragoon in the DNA of this video game. And if you really wanted to be serious about the DNA of Legends of Dragoon, I don't think you want to go that far, because if you were to involve that level of timed hits, that would actually complicate the video game. Especially for the people who have DSSL on their drivers. Nothing would piss them off more than missing their combat presses because the extra generated frames that aren't real made them miss the tempo of their attack system.
In the 90s, but in the best way possible. Outside of the timed button addition system, you can also parry attacks, dodge them, and eventually jump over certain attacks and counter them too. The parry system especially will feel right at home for people who play, and this was a weird connection to me, but trust me, it works, but Souls-likes, actually. Games like Sekiro or Kazan and more are all games I love so much, and the parrying in those games, if you played it, it will pay off when you're playing Clair Obscur, believe me. Because the game has this satisfying parry system where you can block almost every attack and do big damage in return. And learning the enemy...
The correct reaction would be that for people who want to evade damage, they can be able to evade. And for the people who want to take advantage of their skills and demonstrate with character action that they can parry it and block it to prevent the damage and get the advantage to counterattack. Both provide the necessary feedback for people who otherwise would not feel like this type of turn-based gameplay would be their speed.
These movements, which aren't difficult in my opinion to read, again maybe because I played so many Souls-likes, but the fact that DNA connects to this game is really weird, but man is it awesome to me. You also have...
How would it be weird that being able to pay attention to the tells of an enemy would be off-tempo for a game about turn-based combat system? Because it's turn-based, you have the ability to notice more things in the environment. What the fuck is Paper Mario? What the fuck is Mario and Luigi? Yes, indeed. Unless you're legitimately asking what are those things actually. In which case, we have a lot of video games and I have a lot of emulation to teach you how to do so you can play them.
Finite healing potions and such too, which also reminded me of having my Estus flask in, say, Dark Souls. And
yes.
Just like Dark Souls and other games like it, your Estus flasks and other healing items only replenish when you rest at a flag site, which is basically your bonfire pretty much. Don't get scared thinking this game is hard though, trust me it isn't, plus it has difficulty settings that you can change at any time. And difficulty does not affect trophies or achievements either, so you can play this on easy and do just fine, so don't worry. But
that in and of itself is not something that should have even been of importance, because I wouldn't have seen reason to mention it at all, and the gameplay experience is based on whatever you decide to have. I know what they are, Carl. You don't expect... You said them in such a way where it's like, what are they? With no air quotes.
The fact that the game has that Souls-like DNA in it is kind of wild, but badass as hell. And the way the entire game has told its story so far, it's also giving me, vibe connections to other JRPGs that I've played in the past. The obvious connection here would be games like Final Fantasy X or Final Fantasy IX, and weirdly enough, it reminds me of Final Fantasy Type 0, if you ever played that one.
Video games inspire other video games? What a crazy concept.
Zero was about young soldiers going to war to fight to the death, and Clair Obscur's setup and how it's playing out, it feels similar to me, in a good way. That you have these people that are in this terrible situation, not because they want to be in there necessarily, but because they have to in order to defend their home from this godlike being, I guess. So the combat is incredibly satisfying if you enjoy turn-based games, and I think the way this battle system works is that it will even entertain and probably entice action RPG fans due to how quick-paced it is and how it's all designed. The level up system too, and how that works also ties into other games you've maybe played as well. The Picto system is where you equip different abilities, and once you win a certain amount of battles with that Picto attached, your
certain amount. The number is 4.
Entire party learns that ability, and then they can all use it. Then you have Lumina points. Think of these like ability points. And then you're able to spend your Lumina, sort of like how in Final Fantasy IX did it, with their gear having abilities that you then equip, and you can customize each member to have whichever ability you want on. So you can turn characters into, say, big-time bruisers, who do big basic damage and leave enemies defenseless with their attacks, or turn someone into a marksman, and have their gunshots burn their enemies, and also cause a status effect that's called called Mark to happen, which then makes them take more damage. But then you can use magic powers to burn your enemies, and then for example, you have one character whose name is Mael, or Mael, I think her name is Mael, that's how you say it, but anyway, she's the redheaded girl. And her whole entire kit is based on stances, and for example, she could enter a powerful stance where she does double damage with her next attack if she uses certain abilities against enemies that, for example, are on fire. But Mael could also use other abilities she has to change her stance so she can become either offensively based or even defensively based given the situation. Then you have the main character Gustav. His skill set is more simple but still very effective. Pretty much, so far anyways, Gustav works with something called charges. Every time he hits an enemy, he gains one charge. And Gustav has a robotic arm similar to Nero and Devil May Cry 5, and the idea is once you get Gustav to 10 charges in his robotic arm, you can then discharge that buildup in an explosive blast called Overcharge.
There was no end of that section about the Pictos. He just started launching into describing the characters.
That does massive damage to a single enemy. I'm sure Gustav's kit will evolve as I play, but there's so much more to it too. You even have skill points that you get when you level up, and then you can allocate it like Dark Souls into your strength or your health or your luck and your speed and so on. And then you have Lune, who is my favorite character in the game. She's this
Lune? Lune.
badass Asian woman who's basically like Yennefer from The Witcher. And Lune's system has to do with elemental stains. Whatever element she uses, it gives her a stain of that element. So you use fire, you get fire stain. Then you can spend those to do cool things with your abilities in combat. There's more characters too, but I don't want to spoil anything beyond that for you. But the idea is that every single character has a totally unique skill set with their own mechanics that are wholly unique to just them. And it may sound overwhelming, but it really isn't, trust me. But it makes combat very interesting because you're able to balance all of these mechanics that each character can do. And then as you play, you'll start realizing that, oh wow, if I have Lune and Mael on my team, I can use Lune to burn enemies and have Mael attack them with certain moves that are in her skill set alone, to then make her enter that special stance where she does even more damage, or giving Lune and Mael abilities using their Lumina points to make them gain ability points in combat, and extra critical hit damage when those enemies are marked. And you can mark them by giving Gustav an ability that makes it so that his gun can mark enemies when he shoots them, and then you can see how one thing will lead to another that leads to another. And yeah, it's deep, but really rewarding to figure this all out on your own.
This was a section that could have been made simpler and shorter. This is the kind of rambling that I would have expected from myself, and I did indeed do while on camera. Because he just overcomplicated the simplicity of the Picto system. So, while correct, there was an easier way to explain them. Namely, by explaining the Picto system, then the skills, and emphasizing the importance that by equipping the Pictos on a character, and then surviving combat with those Pictos, you make the skills available to everyone, and thus create self-enabling synergy by the character in combat on their lonesome, instead of just picking off and building off of another character's playstyle for maximum synergy. As an example, he did it with too many words, Carl said, staring into the camera.
Beyond the Picto system, the game also has a skill tree for every character that unlocks as you play the game. Each skill on the tree for each hero isn't something basic like +5 attack or something. Instead, every skill node is a brand new mechanic or ability you can then use that has their own animations and whatever else that ties into that character's unique skill set. For example, Mael can unlock abilities to give everyone protection against damage, or she can use another ability to take damage in place of other characters. But then you can also arm Mael with Pictos that increase her counterattack damage and then give her ability points when she successfully counters or dodges attacks. So in a way, you can turn all the heat onto her alone, and then she's almost like a tank in like an MMO raid group. And then
I mean, that's one way to think of the defensive pose, but let's not address the fact that you mentioned that as though that skill is not going to put her in offensive stance. But, you know, let's not get through the reads, because that's for an entirely different discussion.
And you can just start dodging and parrying and jumping over attacks and dealing massive counter damage to enemies while you keep your companions safe. That's awesome. And what I also love is that the game does reward your skill too. At one point I entered an area that was clearly not meant for me yet. We've all been there in a game. You ever play something and you enter somewhere and enemies are like two-shotting you and you go, uh-oh, I probably should leave? Yeah, so I entered one of those areas. Anyway, if this was like other JRPG games and stuff like that, I would be forced to just leave, because even in old school Final Fantasy games, you can't really rely on dodging or blocking when it comes to enemies clearly that are way stronger than you usually. But again, due to the fact that Clair Obscur allows you to parry, dodge, and more, I was able to make my way through this huge level that I'm not even done yet. I actually stopped playing the game to write this video first, but
He's probably talking about the area that I discovered on the other side that's across from the Flying Waters. The cave that said danger, high danger inside. I forgot what the name of the zone is. He's probably talking about that zone. And yeah, that's actually a positive of, that's a positive of it. But considering that this would be a game that would be more expectantly played by normies, they would probably just flow in the direction of combat and then return there at a different time. Perhaps on a replay, I will try to do that myself.
I was killing enemies that I had no business fighting yet. But again, because the game rewards skill and my
Not the one with the red trees. On the other end, that wasn't the exit of Flying Waters. When you leave the plains, there's two doors. The one to the left that's past the second encounter on the world map, before the front door entrance of the Flying Waters. Not the back door entrance that leads to the Jessuls. That zone gives you a warning that says this zone is dangerous. He probably entered that zone. It's a cave.
Many hours playing Souls-likes have tempered me, I was able to move around enemy attacks and still defeat them. I was even beating mini-bosses, which were definitely outside of my character's damage and health pools by a large margin. One attack from any of these mini-bosses would pretty much kill me, and sure, I would die here and there, but I would just come back and fight the mini-bosses again, because I was able to read their tells or deflect or dodge their moves, and lo and behold, I would still beat them anyways. And then when you beat these guys, I would get wicked weapons. Like, for example, I beat one boss and I got an amazing weapon for Lune that was far higher level and powerful than she had any right to have at that point in the game. But that's why it's awesome, and it has that Souls-like connection to it that I'm saying. Because if this were like
He's talking about sequence breaking.
any other RPG or whatever, I would be forced to just run away with my tail between my legs. But since Clair Obscur actually rewards your exploration and skill, you can technically fight anything as long as you're good enough at understanding the mechanics and the enemy movements, which is dope, dude. I should also mention
That's a positive of the game. You titled this game, or you titled this video with an inflammatory title by the tune of Expedition 33 should not exist. Perhaps you decided to try and frame this as though it was a hyper-positive video framed with a hyper-toxic opening, but you're just glazing the game frequently. While acceptable, I then take question and umbrage with the way that you're describing it and the ways in which you are choosing to hint the game up to. Your ass popped so hard when you beat the boss without damage. Did you come across the same early beginning mini-boss inside of the plains when you got access to Gustav and Lune? The one that has the spear. I got my damageless achievement off of that boss. Because since I went the route of putting into crit and to agility and defense, I don't even think if I had put the amount of levels between 1 and 5 into health, I would have even had enough health to fight them. But that boss is probably the key characteristic example of what we could probably do if we were expected to just play perfectly. I halfway think that that boss was designed for us to play perfectly to get that achievement. In my opinion. Because I don't see how the fuck anybody was supposed to get through that shit without being able to, do that otherwise. You got yours off the Flying Waters boss with the trumpet. I know exactly what you're talking about, yeah. So you beat that boss while getting hit? It must have been when I was still in the headspace of thinking that those restoratives were non-refuelable. That might have been the case. Either way,
Mentioned the levels are weirdly huge, and I wasn't prepared for how big many of the levels are so far. No, it's not open world or anything, but the way the game's levels are designed, there's plenty of hidden areas, mini bosses, and more to find as you play it.
Realistically, this is probably the only opinion that I had that I don't think anybody else had, or at least nobody communicated when I talked about my experience of it on Twitter. The skybox zones around these levels' architecture are so large that there is no true through line on where the direct path would be. So the way that you had the guiding line inside of South of Midnight that would pretty much give you the ability to see where you're going, there is no map for the zone, and there was no guiding line for the zone. So I had no ability to see where the fuck I was going. So I ended up exploring everything as a consequence of simply trying to find my way through. If there was a map button, like in any other JRPG, to explore, a la something like, say, Star Ocean, it would not have been a problem whatsoever. And I get it. Half the part of them not having a map is because they're a new expedition. So if there's a tool or an item that gives them access to have a map button, then that won't come through in the zone. Because the map button only exists on the world map. The 3D world map. They need to have the tool for not getting lost. But I guess take notes and don't get lost. Forehead.
I've found things like extra healing charges, revives, new weapons, pictos, you name it. There's plenty of areas off the beaten path too that you can discover as well. I once found a battle arena where I could fight these paintbrush looking creatures in 1v1 combat. And I was able to complete it, and I got a bunch of new abilities that specifically powered up my characters if they fought solo. There's a lot to find is what I'm saying, and from what I understand, I'm still on the first continent. I guess you could say still. I'm almost level 19, and the amount of things I've found in the 9 or so hours I've played is staggering. But what's crazy about Clair Obscur is that it shows and proves that we don't need modern gaming to go in the direction that it's currently heading in. As you all know, Nintendo is trying and sadly successfully pushing the new meta of $80 American digital and $90 for physical games. Nintendo Switch 2s are sold out everywhere pretty much, and my fear is that other companies will inevitably follow suit and make their games $80 or $90 as well, like Nintendo. But here comes Clair Obscur, and it's only $65 Canadian at release, or I guess $50 American. Yet the amount of polish, grandness, depth, and mechanics, all of it is so well and beyond anything I've seen in most AAA releases in the past few years and then some. By the way, Clair Obscur isn't even AAA technically, it's an indie game actually. You could call it AA, I guess, but the point is that the game is not full priced, nor was its budget anywhere near the scope of, say, Assassin's Creed Shadows or something like that. But what's also wild to me is that Sandfall Interactive, which are the devs behind Clair Obscur, they're only 30 people in total. You heard that right, 30 people made this game. It took them 5 years to do it, but the fact that a game of this scope and grandness was made by a fraction of the studio size that it took to make something like Assassin's Creed Shadows is genuinely insane to me. And the reason why I keep bringing up Shadows is for good reason, because in case you didn't know, Sandfall Interactive is made up mostly of ex-Ubisoft devs. Yeah, I know. This game...
That's you bringing them up so that you can tie them to the controversy so you can get clicks on the video.
Was made by developers who worked on Assassin's Creed, Rayman, Rainbow Six Siege, and so on. Sandfall Interactive also posted this on Twitter saying, "We are currently the top reviewed game on Metacritic for 2025. Speechless. So many incredible games have been released this year. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Wow, look at that. A game that has reached the mid-90s on Metacritic, and the developers aren't smug about it at all. They're just thankful. They're not attacking fans or banning them from Discord moderation groups or policing their languages or pushing stupid identity politics or making the women insufferable girl bosses and the men sniveling weaklings. They just made a video game that didn't talk down to anyone and instead focused on the game's story and magic, on ensuring the game's world feels familiar but removed from reality just enough that none of the stupid real world politics that we know are plaguing it. No body type A or B, nothing like that. It's just a video game like we used to buy and play back in the day."
And Damian, this is a RPG that did not give you the choice of altering your main character because there is a set narrative that we're playing through. That's like trying to say the same thing, but you're talking about Final Fantasy X. Or 7. What are you smoking?
And it's so refreshing. Oh my god, it's so nice to see, guys. You have no idea. And the way these devs are acting with their fans is how you should do it.
You know what would also be refreshing? You not feeling that you have to call it out like this and then use it as an example to wag at other people. You can just say that it's a good game. By all means, make the video. But that kind of just demonstrates that you're actually more than happy to continue the culture war. You're just involving them in the culture war in a way that they shouldn't be involved in. You're level 20 in the second area because reasons, huh? Because reasons, huh? I feel you.
They're not alienating people based on political or religious factions. They're just accepting players from everywhere, and with their game, they're saying this is not a political statement. Hell, it's not even going to break your
They haven't even said that.
bank account buying this. It's just a video game made
They also didn't say that either.
by people who love the medium, and that's beautiful if you ask me. Like,
They also didn't say that either. They just made the video game and said, here's the dish, enjoy. More importantly, on the factor of the purchase of the money, I bought my purchase using CD keys. The same way that for Monster Hunter Wilds, I took the advice of Jay Funky and used Green Man Gaming. I also intend on using the same advice to try and buy copies of other games that I'm looking up to play, either for content or for community group gaming. Frugality is on the customer and the consumer. By all means, the industry should try to do what they can to reduce the prices because I'm not paying for a $500 brick. But I'm also not going to try to pay full price for the game if I can help it. Saving money in any way possible means I have more dollars in my pocket. While they're not responsible for the market standard, it's not like I can ask them to sell this game for $15. For this is definitely not Balatro.
Like I said, this game was made by ex-Ubisoft developers, and I think I speak for us all where I say, where the hell were these people within Ubisoft this whole time? Because Ubisoft hasn't made a critically acclaimed game in a really long time. Maybe the last time they did a Rayman was their best reviewed game, maybe, and that's been like, what, 10 years at least? And I think what Clair Obscur proves more than anything to me is that it raises the question of just how many of these sorts of devs like these people who made Clair Obscur exist right now in the industry as we speak. How many talented devs are there out there, you know, right now who are clearly capable of making peak but are also being chained down by these companies to deliver these slop simulators and rehashed by the numbers open world franchise tied games instead? Because these
Okay, well, real quick.
making peak but are also being chained down by these companies to deliver these slop simulators.
So this is the map of the first area. See that cave right there that's in front of him? That's the zone I was talking about, Horror.
And rehashed by the numbers open world franchise tied games instead. Because these devs here, some of them worked on Assassin's Creed, and look, I beat Shadows, I reviewed it for the channel, and if you put a gun to my forehead right now, I couldn't tell you most of the side content or even the main quests that I did in that game because they're so forgettable. The story was awful.
Ignoring the fact that you didn't explain which Assassin's Creed to work on, let's assume that they left the studio and they left mid-development and then they went to go work for Sandfall. Which Assassin's Creeds did they used to work on? That's number one. Number two, what mechanics and what storylines and what missions and what mission parameters were they responsible for making and programming? And then finally, what the fuck does that have to do with the game being good? Sure, they're ex-employees of this company. And sure, they're ex-employees and developers that worked on these particular franchises. You mentioned Rayman, but you didn't say which Rayman. Rayman Legends and Legends 2? Or Rayman 1, Rayman 2, and Rayman 3? And the remake of Rayman Revolutions. That's kind of important information. If you were to tell me, man, this is the person who used to work on God of War, I'm going to ask you, God of War or Dad of War? The same way if you say, damn, this is the guy who worked on Twisted Metal. Twisted Metal 1, Twisted Metal 2, Twisted Metal 3, Twisted Metal Black, or Twisted Metal 2013. You're letting a lot of shit do a lot of heavy fucking lifting, bro.
The political statements being made in it were terrible. Yasuke was so forced so heavily. They even say at one point in that game that he's the greatest samurai after only being in Japan for 6 months. The guy didn't even know what a katana was half a year ago. Come on, Ubisoft, you can't be serious. And yet that game, Shadows I mean, was made by thousands of developers. It took well over 5 years and then some to be created, and likely costed 10 or 15 times the budget of what Clair Obscur did in comparison, if not even more than that. Yeah, look at their reception both critically and player-wise from Clair Obscur, and now compare it to Shadows. Completely different receptions. There was so much animosity.
Yeah, because they're completely different fucking games. Motherfucker's gotta make videos so he can eat dinner. I can respect the grind, but I do not respect how you choose to frame the story, and that's really the takeaway that I have.
And hate for Shadows, and rightfully so, all the force damaging to the shrines. The complete disregard for Japanese history, Yasuke being implemented as a playable character. I could keep going. I've done videos on this before. I'm just going to keep moving, but anyways.
So why did you still do it there if you're going to just keep moving? Make your reference to the game and then get back to talking about the game.
But put it this way, okay? If you compare Assassin's Creed Shadows Steam chart numbers to Clair Obscur, it's kind of insane, really.
Not really, because this is just what's on Steam. So this is talking about the PC player base, and not the rest of the player bases where they can play concurrently. Assuming that they're not using a proprietary launcher, which I think it does do for Steam. This does not tell us the argumentation. Because, remember when I got a particular achievement and I said, how is it that I have this achievement and it's saying that there's not enough people who have it? Right now, the post-game summary. 88.3% of players having an achievement about defeating a boss without taking damage. 35.6% of players having the achievement of embarking on the expedition, finding your way through Spring Meadows, defeating the mine that was in Lumiere, using overcharge with Gustave, fully overcharged, breaking the armor of an enemy. These are achievements that don't equal up correctly, like people are somehow not playing the game completely. But we already know the answer to this equation. Those post-game summary achievements that categorize the global achievement standards based on the people who bought the game, not the people who bought and engaged with the game. Which is why when multiple people have been talking about the people who are playing the video game, they're not just saying the numbers that have been sold, the numbers that have been sold and have been engaged with for more than 4 hours. This tells me nothing. Saying, look at the numbers, look at this photograph, these numbers show you that your game is shit. No, it doesn't! It just tells me that this game is being played. Concurrently, the peak, and concurrently, the 24-hour peak, and concurrently, the played in the last 5 minutes peak are different. Because one game came out before the other. The other one came out just now. Recency bias, plus you have a narrative that you're trying to push. Your argument is invalid, Endymion.
Clair Obscur has already surpassed the highest concurrent player count that Shadows is able to achieve. Reminder that Shadows released on a Thursday, which is the same day of the week that Clair Obscur did as well, so it's a nice comparison.
No, it's not. You're talking about people talking about a fully expected game where they have hopes for something that is different versus the same slop content from a developer that's already looked at negatively. I wonder which one I want to go to. Go to the grand opening of the We Suck Your Dick and Lick the Balls Emporium, or go down to the Crumble Cookie Factory again and buy an overpriced cookie that's shaped like one of the Caitlyn Jenner children. I guess I'm going to the Coos Emporium, guys. I don't know what to do. It's their grand opening. It's a 2-for-1 special. What's the 2-for-1 special, Carl? What's the 2-for-1 special, Carl? This is a joke about doing it in 2 hands. Anyways.
And both these games had similar release windows, and Clair was able to obtain more concurrent players in 1 day versus Shadows having the entire weekend to itself.
That is not a relevant argument. Let's compare these games when there has been enough time between them that we can say it has reached the same age as that game. And let's see the article saying, games dropped off dramatically, game dropped off dramatically. Because you all do this every single fucking time. The fucking numbers of the Steam charts does not dictate if a game deserves credit and praise. It deserves credit and praise for the content that is consumed, and whether or not it is looked back at fondly. The reason we look back fondly at Chrono Trigger, and for those who appreciate it, to the point that it got a Radical Dreamers re-release for multiple platforms, so it was not trapped on the last platform, is that it stands the test of time. Does Assassin's Creed Shadows stand the test of time? No. Why? Controversy and bad video game. I don't have to refer to anything else. If I cut out the controversy, does it stand the test of time? on its own merits. No. Why? Slop content cycle from the mainstream. Removing politics, removing argumentation for politics, with full access to all material and content, with everything functioning as intended, a video game's worthiness is based on your personal enjoyment. If you expect to have a personal enjoyment playing this game, as you would to playing any expected Game of the Year contender, I expect a person to be able to have more fun playing Expedition 33 if they come from a background of playing Elden Ring than if they came from a background of playing Stardew Valley, because it's going to ask different things of you. But if given enough time to appreciate the game's mechanics and its design, I would expect them to have the same opinion about it as a person learning Balatro for the first time could have about Balatro. Because with all access to the material and content, and you experiencing the game as it was intended to be played by the developers, the number on the Steam chart is not what dictates that. If your opinion is shaped and moved and noted by the fact that your opinion is controlled by what is most viral, then you don't really have an opinion. You're borrowing somebody else's opinion. That's not how you should judge video games. If I gave everybody a copy of Borderlands 1 through 3, and it had all the DLC in it, I expect them to walk away with an understanding of that video game and appreciating the systems and the story and the mechanics and the audio quality as separate elements. For a product of its whole part, I'm pretty sure they will be able to say, you know what, it's not my bag, but it wasn't that bad, simply because of what the game asks of you. In here, you're framing this shit like it's going to be Game of the Year because of the Steam numbers. And it's not. That's not an argument. What would make it worthy for an award, let's use it in the terms of the Academy for Hollywood. What would make it worthy of an award is that a room of your peers all voted on saying that this deserves to have recognition because they could recognize the quality. And obviously the problem that applies there is the issue of the standard that we're talking about in the first place anyways. Because it's massively played and has wide appeal does not mean that people will get that appeal. Going too wide with the shotgun means that you're going to hit multiple things, but it's not a focus on the target that you want. What you want is the consistency of somebody taking, let's pretend this straw is the barrel of a shotgun, you putting it against their chest and pulling the trigger. You want this to connect to them personally, but you also want it to be far enough that it can connect to them personally and yet still touch other people around it. So that when it's voted Game of the Year, it's not voted the Game of the Year because, guys, it had bigger Steam numbers than the other game on Steam. It's Game of the Year because I recognized I was playing Kino, and I had to make sure that other people could play Kino too. It's the type of game where you can say, I had fun playing this video game. So much so that I shared my Steam account with Jay, and then Jay played it, and then Jay loved it. Which is something I'm going to try to push for her to do, because we already share access to the video games on our accounts. This is the kind of thing that you can be able to address for. And for some reason, they don't want to address for that. For what other reason or otherwise they have. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand this kind of hatred of video games for the sake of glazing numbers and glazing arguments. I don't want to understand it either. You're focused on something other than the video game, dude.
Actually insane. Remember too that the Oblivion remaster is out right now as well, so the fact that Claire is getting these numbers is actually insane given the competition
People can take time and play different video games, dude.
that it's facing. And Sandfall Interactive also recently posted that Claire Obscure has also passed 500,000 copies sold already within 1 day. That's copies
That brings back my point about how many copies sold and how many copies engaged and played.
sold, by the way. Unlike Ubisoft, who was using their, certain language like players instead of copies sold to swindle their numbers to be higher than they actually were. And look at how Sandfall responded to their milestone. They said, a milestone for us, reached sooner than we'd ever imagined. Thank you all. Again, just grateful, pleasant, and mature. No punching.
You mean just a bog standard PR response? Damn, that's crazy. Now, there's an argument for, wow, a standard PR response that doesn't insult customers and doesn't insult people who didn't buy the game. That's crazy. Carl, that's commendable. We usually don't get that. Yes, but I'm not about to let him use a positive good thing that should be completely neutral and then frame it as a use in the culture war. I'm making him put the club down. He wants to pick the club up and cudgel people. I'm making him put the club down.
Down, no stupid nonsense. Wow, imagine that. Just releasing your game and letting it speak for itself and not ruining your image in the name of some stupid pandering nonsense.
But you are, because you're ruining it by doing your stupid pandering nonsense.
Even the female characters actually, dare I say, look like real women from a Western game in
That's not necessary for you to say about this video game.
2025? What is this? Where are the hit pieces attacking the game for making men and women look like actual men and women? Oh, right, they won't, because they
Give it a bit.
know if they do, they'll get dogpiled by the entire internet, and for good reason. And like I said earlier, knowing that this game came to be out of the ashes of Ubisoft, it just makes me wonder how many other experiences like these are currently being chained down by these mega corporations who refuse to take risks and deliver smaller but far superior experiences instead of their rehashed tired franchises again and again. Because if these devs pitched Clair Obscur to Ubisoft while working there, we all know they would have shut.
Yeah, the horseshoe theory does indeed apply to gaming grifters.
This game's pitched down super fast. Imagine pitching this to Ubisoft. So we want to make a 30-hour turn-based RPG game that is heavily story-driven and relies on character emotions. We also want to make a game that isn't technically open world at all, has an overworld map where you can run around like in classic RPGs. Oh yeah, also we don't want to do anything like a battle pass or tons of paid cosmetic DLCs or a cash shop either. Also, the game will be full price and it'll also offer about 30 hours of side content too. Are you kidding me? Ubisoft would have lynched these devs for even trying to propose this game to them. They would burn this game's pitch with their cigars and tell these devs to shut up and go make another Assassin's Creed. And don't forget to put a chicken in and make her lame and gay while you're at it. And I can only imagine how many more brilliant ideas developers within this industry have right now that simply cannot come to fruition simply because these big publishers aren't willing to make them because they can't monetize it the hell in back or add stupid agenda slop in it like they usually do. You ask me, Clair Obscur is a game, like I said at the beginning, that technically shouldn't exist. Everything this game is represents the antithesis of what the executives and publishers want from video games today. Notice how I didn't say what players want, because in fact this is what we want actually. We want cool, unique experiences like this game, but it doesn't really fit the mold of the industry. Yet the reception both fan-wise and critically, well, it paints a different picture. Because how long can this industry, especially in a Western sense, continue to keep pushing agenda slop and live service games for? We already saw.
For as long as you will continue playing them. If you stop playing them entirely and stop giving them your money, they'll start doing something differently. It happens in a slow, eager pace, but they always eventually do catch up and learn. It's just that the way that they learn is that they happen to follow in the form of trends. The trend that came before Diablo and ARPGs everywhere was the slop of RTS and MOBAs. Then, it was specifically Battle Royales. Now, it's live service video game with additional hook. Whether they make it like a farming simulator, like Warframe, which is effectively the first Descendant, or they make it more like a video game attempting to be like Path of Exile, but not Path of Exile. So, Last Epoch, Torchwood Infinite, which feels more like a mobile game than an actual video game, is dependent upon how much you reward them. You keep buying games to try and talk shit about them, when you should be pirating the games to talk shit about them and monetize them and demonstrate that you're not willing to spend money even to criticize it. That you will highly steal everything. And that the goal needs to be fix the games.
Oh, PlayStation has canceled a dozen live service games already, leaving their first-party studios sitting 5 years into their current console's lifespan with barely any memorable PlayStation-exclusive experiences to find it by. Instead, they've remastered or remade Last of Us 1 and 2 already 4 times instead. And by the
Whoa, games!
this point in the PS4 or even the PS3's lifecycle, we had dozens of great experiences, but the industry now in the PS5 era is all about things that frankly I just don't care much about, if I'm being honest. I'm just losing interest in live service games. I'm even finding it hard to play Marvel Rivals at times. I played Fortnite recently with friends after saving my game in Clair Obscur, and oh my god.
That's because Marvel Rivals is meant for the casual player base. While there's a lot of potential for competitive balancing in many video games are not intended to be for a hardcore audience. They're meant to be for a casual audience. But sweats are sweats.
The boredom that I felt playing Fortnite following Clair Obscur was tangible, let me tell you. It was like going from eating a Michelin star steak with all the potatoes and beautiful salad and a nice rum and coke to suddenly being given Little Caesars pizza that's been in the fridge for like 2 days pretty much. And like, I'm not saying eating pizza's bad, but if I had to choose between that or a beautiful steak, I know what I'm picking. And that's the thing, if there's anything I've noticed this year is that real passion is what wins players, and even the...
Okay, so that argument's really retarded. What did I eat last night? I ate hot stone soup versus the Mongolian buffet that I ate with Star. If I could always pick to have Mongolian buffet steak cooked for me versus stone soup, yes, I'll eat stone soup. But what if, along with the Mongolian buffet and stone soup, Clair Obscure, Expedition 33. And Stone Soup, let's say RuneScape Dragon Wilds. I also had a ham sandwich with just the right amount of mayo and just the right amount of pepper and a spattering of honey Dijon with spicy kimchi, Balatro. What if, instead of eating the steak every single day, I ate a little bit of the steak? Or more appropriately, about how my ass was burning on fire from eating that Dave's Hot Chicken. The Dave's Hot Chicken. And then I had a sandwich for lunch. And then for dinner, I had a little bit of stone soup. And some of the leftovers from that extra steak that I bought in a budget pack. Just like I do with my pork chops. So that I can continue eating pork chop and steak. And vary up my pattern based on what I feel like. What if instead of just playing a single game to death and then saying there are no games, I instead played what I wanted to and appreciated what I was playing? Because instead of consuming content to get excited for next content and not even being able to give you a description of the palette, what if I enjoyed it? And because I enjoyed it, I'm able to understand what it's about. And I can appreciate it and tell other people about it. What if I didn't use the lack of good content as an excuse for lack of passion? Yeah?
The industry come awards time too. Think about it, right? When was the last time a truly live service game won Game of the Year at the Game Awards? I can tell you because I remember. It was 2016 when Overwatch won it. Ever
No, it wasn't. There was awards that were won for shit like Fortnite, bro.
in Overwatch, we've seen countless ripoffs from Concord, Battleborn, hell, even Marathon to a degree, is doing similar stuff too, even now, and the response to Marathon's alpha has been, well, not great to put it lightly. Yet every other game that won Game of the Year since at either the Game Awards or whichever website has been resoundingly single-player games. Sure, some of them have co-op, Elden Ring for example, or like It Takes Two won Game of the Year as well, but most of the time it's single-player games. Elden Ring again, Sekiro, God of War 2018, Astro Bot, Baldur's Gate 3, the list goes on. All these games are passion projects.
The correct answer to put in is video games based on properties and IP franchises that have re-innovated or reinvigorated interest into a single-player dichotomy where they are not just movie games, they are games with compelling narratives.
It's made by talented developers. Hell, even to this day, you can go look at Baldur's Gate 3's player counts on Steam to show you how a single-player game that is made with passion can still reel in players years later. Actually, let's go look at Baldur's Gate 3's Steam chart numbers right now. And, oh, look at that. Over 100,000 players for a single-player game that is almost
Because it has mods.
2 years old at this point. Imagine that. No battle passes, no microtransactions, no cash shops, nothing. Just a great RPG that gave
Mods.
people the choice to make the adventure however they wanted it to be, and look at how it's paying off for them. And I see Clair Obscur being beloved in a similar fashion to Baldur's Gate 3. Will it have the same staying power player-wise in 2 years? I don't know, but I can say I wouldn't be surprised if Clair Obscur doesn't win some form of Game of the Year somewhere, or at the very least, best music, maybe story, studio, something like that, because it's very clear that the industry is dictated and controlled from the top by the executives of these companies. And all they want is money, and the easiest way to make money to them is to make something people know and then monetize the bejesus out of them. And frankly, I'm tired of it. I really am. I find myself more often than not.
Well, they believe that because they've been shown they can do it. You're over his voice now. Endymion suffers from the same nigga get to the point itis that Arch does, unfortunately. Although when he does it the pad with runtime.
Seeking out unique single-player experiences instead. My 3 favorite games of the year so far are Clair Obscur, The First Berserker Kazan, and Mandragora Whispers of the Witch Tree. These 3 games are all made by talented dev studios that offered unique takes on their genres that were wholly at their core single-player games that didn't inject political nonsense into themselves, or make the player pay loads of money afterwards for content. We need more games like Clair Obscur, Kazan, or Mandragora, and then some. We need these games that these executives might think shouldn't exist because they're not monetizable enough. There's not enough forced diversity. Where's the cash shops? We can add weekly and daily challenges to force players to keep playing our games for currency and whatnot. So we can then put their engagement numbers in a spreadsheet to show investors they give us more money so we can keep buying more yachts. The fact that people like Ken Levine, the creator of BioShock and BioShock Infinite, playing Clair Obscur and saying this on Twitter where he said, watching the opening of Clair Obscur and feeling humbled as an artist, what a masterful and heartbreaking setup for a story. You know how much praise that is? That's like Santa Claus coming to your house personally on Christmas to give you your gift himself. We don't see games like this often is the point, and I think we need to support games like this more now than ever before. Because the way
Yeah, we do. And we should start by not making them a part of the fucking culture war. And let them be unmolested by the culture war. And not try to use them to get clicks to talk about how bad other things of the culture war were. Instead, just play them independently and be unmolested by the culture war that you are desperate to fight in as a culture warrior.
the industry wants to go is to charge you even more for less in the future. Nintendo wants you to spend $90 on the next Mario Kart, dude. That's almost 50% more money for Mario Kart than it is pretty much to buy Clair Obscur right now. You gotta be kidding me. Look, I can see the industry's having an identity crisis. They want to push one thing, which is the same franchises over and over again, without much change to continue their cash gravy trains, but it's obvious that many players like myself, we just want unique games again. I miss the Xbox arcade era of games. I miss when Sony was releasing weird unique games every other month, like the Unfinished Swan or Concrete Genie. I miss the great games of the PS3 era, like Infamous or Eternal Sonata. These games that weren't trying to become my life for the next 1,000 hours, or demand that I spend all my life savings to get the most out of their experiences. I just miss these games that respected my time, my energy, my wallet, and most importantly, my intelligence. I'm tired of hollowed out games that think checking boxes is what makes a game good instead of realizing it's the people who make them instead. The fact these devs couldn't make this game at Ubisoft and had to leave is what irks me the most. It's not that these games aren't capable of being made, that the talent isn't there when surely it clearly is. It's simply that these companies are refusing to allow their developers to make what they really want to make. When you compare Marathon to Clair Obscur, it should tell you everything. Because Marathon feels more like a game that was being made by developers who were told what they should make instead of allowing them to make what they actually wanted to make in the first place. And Clair Obscur is simply that. It's weird, it has bizarre level design locales like an underwater world that you can breathe in somehow. The enemies look freaky and messed up at times. The characters feel like real people and they feel imperfect, which is great, and they aren't saying stupid real stuff like Tash and Dragon Age saying, so I'm non-binary and whatever else. It just feels like a game from a time where games were made with passion by developers who were eager to make something not because of monetary value, but simply because they really wanted to make art. And I think that's beautiful, and I think that should be celebrated. And maybe the industry can learn from this game that costs way less than the next inevitable Call of Duty or Division game. This game where there's like 8 hours of music that is made for it, where it's a weird experimental turn-based RPG that offers deep RPG complexities and harkens back to Legend of Dragoon of all things. And it calls back to when classics like Final Fantasy IX and more were what the industry was pushing instead of Call of Duty insert buzzword here and Assassin's Creed here we go again number 15. From what I've played so far of Clair Obscur, it has exceeded all expectations and delivered something truly memorable. And the fact it costs way less than most games do yet has more than those games have and offers an experience the industry doesn't seem able to make due to corporate oversight. It truly is a game that shouldn't even exist, and yet it's here and I hope you play it. Even if you don't like turn-based RPGs, I hope you give it a try and see that it is nowhere as simple to play as you might believe it to be. I hope there's more games like this in the future, and maybe just maybe the industry can learn from this game. Because Clair Obscur didn't just embarrass the industry, fellas, it exceeded what most of these studios are doing these days for a fraction of the price and with less.
I already put it on 2 times without telling you. That is as fast as it could be able to go, dude.
Actual developers making it than probably the entire HR department at Ubisoft alone. And it's pathetic how Ubisoft and other companies take thousands of devs and years to deliver absolute slop, and it's very obvious that game budgets are completely out of whack. That they're
So stop fucking playing their games and stop looking at what they're doing. Stop expecting the next content, dude. God damn. I'm with Alex here. I have not watched Endymion for like years. I've swapped over to Legendary Drops and Legacy Killer. And, of course, Upper Echelon. You're not telling me anything about this game that I could not tell somebody myself. And worse, you have told them about the game in such a way where you have made the concept sound more complex, Carl said as he, again, looks into the camera directly at horror. You have explained it in such a way where you have made it sound less interesting. To take from Jay's words, young motherfuckers finding a great way to make a video game that is a world-renowned bestseller that needs to be played feel like something that people should skip. Holy shit. It would do better of a service if you were to shut up and just let other people discover it without you having to say anything about it. Because you would, by nature, push them away from it.
full of bloat, and the medium, it just needs a reset. But what do you think about Clair Obscur? Are you going to play it? Are you already? What do you think? Let me know. Thank you for watching, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Alright. That was the last thing. Now, as I promised, this is where I cut the feed, but that's when I switch over to finishing Ratchet & Clank. Because it's 2:40 p.m. Then I should be done before 5. Then I can continue with Ratchet & Clank 3. Because Alex has already prepaid up to Ratchet & Clank 3. And then there's one game after it. And we actually got that done with less than a minute to fucking spare. Whee! I'm ahead of schedule today! Alright. Let me do that. I'll be right back, chat. Don't bust that nut yet.